Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Meet Wanda and become the strongest saint. Chapter 1. The wheel of time keeps spinning, and years come and go like the wind. Generations change, leaving only memories. The remaining memories turn into legends, and the legends slowly turn into myths. When the cycle of times returns, even the myths have long since disappeared. On a certain blue planet called Third Earth, the new era has not yet arrived, but the old era has long passed. A gust of wind blew in the blue sea. This gust of wind is not the beginning, but it is indeed a beginning. Because in this warm sea breeze, a small black spot suddenly appeared. If you look closely, you can see that this is a young man falling from midair. Subai let out a cry. The feeling of being thrown from a high altitude was far more exciting than a roller coaster, let alone being unprepared. Subai has an average appearance and an average family background. She is 17 this year and is about to become a hardworking senior high school student. He ran into the cinema during the summer vacation to watch the latest superhero movie, Wonder Woman. The first second, the light in the theater slowly dimmed, thinking that the movie was about to start. Unexpectedly, the next second, he appeared above the blue sea and sky. Mist trough. Boat jump spicy. The airflow poured into his mouth, interrupting Subai's last complaint. In panic, he reluctantly twisted his body so that his back was pointed at the sea, then protected his head with both hands, and hit Wang Yang like a ball. Sea. After the brutal contact with the sea level, the cold water rushed over in an instant, swallowing up the pain that spread across his back. Subai hurriedly used the dog paddle she learned in physical education class, and paddled hard toward the bright surface with both hands. His limbs kept swinging, and his sight finally returned to the sea level. With a little effort, Subai saw the small island 1,000 meters away, the golden sandy beach on the coastline, and the white gauze-like cliffs. As a weakling who usually only likes to read novels and play games, and never does any exercise except for physical education classes, Subai is not sure whether he can swim to the island, but he has no choice now, there is no way he will drown alive. After swimming 100 meters away, Subai gradually felt exhausted and gasped for breath. God. Is God here? Santiago. Harry Lure. A brief and rapid cry almost consumed all Subai's energy. He knew that he could not swim to the island, so he immediately changed from an atheist to a polytheist. After all, even traveling through time fell on him, so what else was impossible? It's a pity that he didn't get any response, so he couldn't help but secretly thought in his heart, the blood collapse has started. The cold sea water kept pouring in, and even the last bit of strength was exhausted. Subai was already a little confused, and his body began to sink into the depths of the sea. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in Subai's blurred vision, cutting through the waves extremely powerfully, and rode in the direction where he was. This figure was extremely fast. In 2 breaths, he swam in front of Subai. She is a woman with beautiful black hair, her facial features are the most exquisitely carved, she is wearing a brown breastplate, and her figure is perfect. At such a close distance, Subai's eyes widened. The woman's facial features seemed strange and familiar to him. Before watching the movie, Subai looked up a lot of information about Wonder Woman. This face is 90% similar to the Wonder Woman in the poster, but younger and more beautiful. Absolutely right. Subai understood instantly. He had traveled to the world of Wonder Woman. The person in front of me is most likely Wonder Woman Diana. Diana also looked at the man who suddenly appeared. It was this man who just screamed, attracting the attention of Diana, who was relaxing on the beach. While practicing fighting skills today, she accidentally injured a female warrior and was severely punished. Unexpectedly, I found a man on the beach. As long as Diana can remember, she has not seen any man. For the residents of Paradise Island, men are animals that only exist in books. And before her eyes, a man actually appeared. Diana's curiosity reached its peak. She put her arms around Subai, who was about to suffocate, and quickly surfaced from the sea. Subai was in Diana's arms, and everything she touched was soft to the touch. However, Subai didn't think much about it. After emerging from the sea, she took a big breath of fresh air. While swimming towards the island, Diana looked at Subai in her arms. Are you a man? Her flawless face was right in front of her, her eyes were like stars, and she could even feel her warm breath. Su-bai couldn't help but nodded awkwardly. Why, don't I look like you? If I had known that this would happen, I would have developed smooth muscles first. Diana didn't think so. Because of Su-bai's answer, she showed a bright smile. It was entirely because Su-bai was the first man she saw. It had nothing to do with whether he had muscles or not. For Diana, who has a blank slate, Su-bai is the first thing about a man. On the beach, Su-bai and Diana maintained a strange posture of woman on top and man on the bottom. Su-bai had no strength to swim. After experiencing the ups and downs of time travel and life and death, she was not in the mood to talk, so she lay down on the beach to rest. Diana, on the other hand, was out of curiosity. She placed her left hand on Su-bai's side, becoming a replica of Baidong, and carefully observed the first man she had seen. But after looking at it for a while, Diana lost interest in the man's appearance. She stood up from the beach, exposed her long legs, and asked, "Who are you and where do you come from?" Diana didn't quite understand Su-bai falling from the sky. She probably didn't know. Even Su-bai himself was a little confused. Why did he suddenly travel through time? Although he dreamed of becoming a superhero in the movie, it happened so suddenly that it would be difficult to accept it if he didn't have a big heart. "My name is Su-bai." That's all Su-bai can answer now. At this time, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Beep, beep, beep. The data collection is completed. The Wheel of Time is officially launched. Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is a super technological product from the 8th era. It is essentially a super intelligent program that is convenient for the vast number of people who travel through time. I am happy to serve the master. I thought that I was selected by the Wheel of Time and started this journey through time, but the Wheel of Time started too slowly, and Su-bai didn't want to complain anymore. In short, his impression of the Wheel of Time is negative. However, the Wheel of Time was not affected and continued to perform the duties of a cold procedure. "Master, please choose the power system immediately and perform the first strengthening." As he finished speaking, a virtual list appeared in Su-bai's eyes. He quickly scanned it and found that all the power systems in the list came from the second dimension. The famous Kido, Ninjutsu, Devil Fruit, Chi, etc. are all available to Su-bai. Su-bai browsed them one by one, and his eyes stopped on the 3 words, "Small Universe." The microcosm is the power system that appears in Saint Seiya. It refers to the potential cosmic energy inside the human body and is the source of human power. The starting point of the small universe is high. The awakening 6th sense alone can defeat most humans, and the 7th sense can move at the speed of light, not to mention the mysterious 8th sense. A glimmer of light flashed in Su-bai's eyes, and she had more detailed considerations in her heart. If his guess was correct, his current location should be Wonder Woman's hometown of Paradise Island. Su-bai checked the relevant information about Wonder Woman and knew that Paradise Island was established by Zeus himself. In other words, this is the sphere of influence of the Greek pantheon. Without much hesitation, Su-bai chose the small universe. Master chose the little universe cultivation system. The choice was successful, and strengthening is about to begin. Strengthening is successful. Congratulations to the Master for awakening the small universe, awakening the 6th sense, and becoming a bronze saint. Master, please choose the guardian constellation of the small universe. Su-bai pondered for a moment and focused on his favorite Phoenix star chart, Phoenix constellation. Congratulations, Master, for obtaining the bronze saint cloth of the Phoenix seat. Su-bai, Phoenix saint. The level of the small universe. The early stage of the 6th sense. Items owned. Phoenix bronze saint cloth. Possess skills. None. Redemption points. 0 inches. After a series of prompts from the Wheel of Time, Su-bai felt his body light up, and everything was different. Deep in his mind, a light blue nebula was born, rotating slowly, and some fine stardust was condensing into a nebula. The shape of a phoenix. Congratulations to the host for triggering the Level 1 mission, Wonder Woman's favorability. You are the first man Wonder Woman Diana meets. Please make sure that Diana's favorability for you reaches above 90 points. Current favorability, 10. Mission completed. Reward redemption points are 5,000 points. Exchange points can be exchanged for all items. Does the Master accept the task? Tip: the Master can refuse any task of the Wheel of Time without penalty, but it will greatly reduce the Master's growth rate. Su Bai opened her mouth and looked at Diana's smile, but she really couldn't think of a reason to refuse. As soon as she chose to accept it, she heard Diana say, Su Bai, are all men like you? Like wood, standing motionless. Ha ha ha, but it is a rare thing for a man to fall from the sky. I'm going to tell other tribesmen. No need, they are already here. Su Bai looked forward. After the sixth sense awakening, his senses had already reached an inhuman level, and he had already noticed that a large group of people were approaching. In front of the beach are two white steep cliffs, forming a natural barrier against foreign enemies. The iron gate between the two steep cliffs has been opened, and the white horses sigh and sprint quickly. On the horses, they are all female warriors wearing breastplates. The leading woman wears a golden hairband, has a beautiful appearance and a cold temperament, but her brows are furrowed. She is the queen of Paradise Island, Hippolyte. Diana, stay away from him. He is an intruder discovered by the tower guards, a human. Hippolyte's eyes were full of scrutiny and distrust, and without even giving Su Bai a chance to explain, he gave an order and yelled, tie him up. The two female warriors got off their horses and put their swords on Su Bai's neck. Paradise Island is private territory and no humans are welcome to enter. Hippolyte gave an order, and two sharp swords were placed on Su Bai's neck. Diana looked anxious. She was the one who fished Su Bai out of the sea. She didn't expect that her tribe would react like this. How many years had it been since there had been no outsiders? Do you want to be isolated from the world for the rest of your life? What's more, Su Bai is just an ordinary person, how much harm can he do? Before Diana could plead, Su Bai spoke first. Is this how you treat guests? How could Su Bai, who had awakened his sixth sense, be afraid of ordinary swords? He flicked his right hand twice, leaving behind two phantoms. The saint who had awakened his sixth sense could already punch at the speed of sound. There were two clear sounds, and amid the disbelieving eyes of everyone, the two sharp swords placed on his neck turned into white debris in an instant and dissipated in the sea breeze. The essence of destruction is to smash atoms. Saints can originally smash the atoms that make up all matter. This is the most basic part of becoming a saint. If you cannot smash atoms and only have superficial destructive power, you can only become a hybrid. Soldiers. After all, this is just the elementary level ability of the small universe. But for ordinary female warriors on Paradise Island, this is too amazing. The man in front of me, in just a moment, crushed a weapon made of fine steel into crumbs. Is this kind of operation possible? Even Diana stared at Su Bai in surprise. She had never expected that Su Bai would have such strength. When she rescued Su Bai from drowning in the sea, she thought Su Bai was just an ordinary man. But if Su Bai has such strength, how can he drown? For a moment, Diana was confused. She was sure that Su Bai's life was in danger not long ago and it could not have been staged. Su Bai, it's really a bit mysterious. Hippolyte's pupils narrowed. The queen obviously did not expect that Su Bai had considerable strength, and her tone was even more stern. Outsider, who are you and what is your identity? It turns out that it's so tiring to put on airs. You must maintain your dignity. You can't laugh or reveal your secrets. Su Bai looked around and found that all the female warriors on Paradise Island were shocked. She couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief in her heart. This is the first time he has used the power of the small universe, and it is also the first time he has pretended to be inferior in front of so many women. If he fails, he may have to find a hole in the ground to burrow down. Su Bai adjusted his condition and said forcefully, Su Bai, the saint who protects Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom. After saying that, Su Bai immediately regretted it. What the hell am I talking about? I have plans to die. What did I do? It's not that I feel ashamed, but that I really want to go. Die. It's completely different from Su Bai's feelings. If Su Bai's blowing off the sword just now was shocking, this sentence is comparable to the power of a nuclear bomb explosion. Athena, the female warriors of Paradise Island present were all agitated. Even Queen Hippolyte could not remain calm. Her eyes widened and she stared at Su Bai. The other party's reaction was beyond Su Bai's expectation. It hit the target and the effect was outstanding. Congratulations, Master, Wonder Woman. Diana's favorability towards you has increased by 5 points. Current favorability is 15. Su Bai thought to himself, I'm so tired, but it seems like I succeeded. The reason why the word Athena is so shocking has to start with the origin of the Amazons. The Amazons were created by the ancient Greek goddesses in 1200 BC from the souls of women killed by men. At the beginning of creation, the goddesses created Hippolyte, queen of the Amazons, from the soul of the first woman to be slain. The 5 goddesses who created the Amazons include Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom. All the female warriors on Paradise Island, including Diana, are all Amazons. If you have anything to do with Athena, you have to be careful. Hippolyte rummaged through the memories in her mind. As the goddess of war, Athena controls dozens of elite armies. Is there a guard named Saint Seiya among them? If it is really Athena's guards, then this Saint Seiya is a rare guest. Hippolyte was not sure, and her face turned gloomy. She knew that this was the age of the gods and she could not verify it. Fortunately, there is a mantra lasso. The artifact is believed to be unbreakable, and those caught in the trap can only tell the truth. Hippolyte's tone softened, but he said more cautiously, "Human, you should know what you are talking about. If you lie, it is blasphemy." Hippolyte took off a long golden rope from his waist, threw it forward, and wrapped it around Su-bai's wrist. Su-bai rolled his eyes. He had been guarding against this move for a long time, but he was still a little nervous. This time, you can't let it go, you must be steady. People who are bound by the lasso of mantra will subconsciously tell the truth. This is an almost rule existence that is uncontrollable and cannot be guarded against by gods. Athena is one of the creators of the Amazon clan. If Su-bai did not lie and was a guard soldier of Athena, then Su-bai's status on Paradise Island far exceeds that of ordinary Amazon warriors. All the Amazons present were looking forward to seeing if Su-bai could withstand the test of the mantra lasso. Even Diana held her breath and stared at Su-bai nervously and excitedly. From a young age, Diana has been instilled in Hippolyte the idea of how great the Father of God is, how noble and elegant the goddesses of Olympus are, and their warriors fight bravely and become legends. At this moment, Su-bai appeared, a man directly related to the goddess Athena. Su-bai took a deep breath, with a calm expression. Feeling the gazes of everyone on her, she finally said, "Do you know how many constellations there are in the night sky?" The answer is 88. This should be a good opening statement. What on earth am I doing? Stop it. The villain in Su-bai's heart was already squatting on the ground with his head in his hands, but he still said calmly, "The number of warriors guarding Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom, is only as many as the shining constellations in the sky, that is, there are only 88. This person is the legendary Saint Seiya. In order to protect the world from evil forces, saints are often involved in life and death battles. Where their abilities are insufficient, they will be supplemented by God's grace. Each saint will have his own guardian constellation. When one is chosen by one of the 88 constellations and is awarded the holy cloth symbolizing the guardian constellation, that person will be recognized as an official saint. I, Su-bai, am the saint of the phoenix." After the words fell, there were many exclamations, as if they couldn't believe it. The mantra lasso is wrapped around Su-bai's wrist, emitting a faint golden light, which can prove that Su-bai is telling the truth, and it is even more shocking than before. The man in front of me is the top warrior guarding Athena. Little did they know that Su-bai just sold a bunch of Saint Seiya settings, memorized the opening lines of every episode of the Saint Seiya animation he watched when he was a child, and bluffed them into nothingness. The Athena Su-bai mentioned and the Athena they knew were not the same person at all. While everyone was shocked, Su-bai took the opportunity to glance at Diana and found that the latter was quite happy. She looked at him with bright eyes and a smile on her face, and she was about to turn into a cheerleader. "Congratulations, Master, Wonder Woman. Diana's favorability towards you has increased by 5 points. Current favorability is 20. Is it true?" Hippolyte said something secretly in his heart, and was worried about Su-bai's purpose of coming to Paradise Island. Her expression changed very quickly, and she suddenly showed a bright smile. The hostility she had before could not be seen at all, and she quietly retracted the lasso of truth. She turned over and dismounted, put her hands on her left shoulders, and bowed slightly. In ancient Greek culture, this was the etiquette required to welcome the most distinguished guests. The female warriors of the Amazon clan behind Hippolyte also showed the same courtesy with respect, except for one person. This Amazon warrior stood behind Hippolyte. Judging from his face, he actually looked similar to Hippolyte's face. Sensing the abnormality behind him, Hippolyte couldn't help but frown, turned around and shouted, "Antiope, what do you want to do?" But there was a trace of deeply hidden admiration in Hippolyte's eyes as he looked back. The female warrior known as Antiope took a step forward. As the strongest warrior of the Amazon clan, she would not bow her head like a saint of unknown origin. Antiope had never known that there was such an army. Although Athena was a supreme god, the Amazons were just mortals blessed by the gods and had no right to interfere with the affairs of the gods. But this is Paradise Island, the Paradise Island after the God War. I want to duel him. I don't think this man is a fighter. Antiope looked at Subai's slightly thin figure. She found no trace of years of training on Subai's body. The only thing Subai showed his strength was the two sharp swords he smashed just now. In the eyes of Antiope, the strongest warrior, it was not considered a feat. She looked at Subai with unabashed doubt and contempt. The goddess Athena disappeared 100 years ago during the divine war initiated by Ares, the god of war. That divine battle was so brutal, but you survive. If you are not a deserter, then take out your so-called holy garments to defend the glory. After listening to Antiope's words, Subai set off firecrackers in his heart and almost laughed. Okay, the Athena of this world had better die. One of the reasons why Subai chose to become a saint before was because he could gain the trust of the Amazons in the name of Athena, which would have a natural favorability bonus. He knows that this is a paradise island, hidden in the world, extremely difficult to enter, and even harder to get out. Only the Amazon queen who guards Paradise Island knows how to leave Paradise Island. Subai was also worried that the Athena of this world would find out if she used Athena's name to pretend to be powerful. Unexpectedly, the Athena of this world was missing and was most likely killed in the battle. Subai tried hard to hold back the laughter in her heart. As for the honor mentioned by Antiope, it was even more nonsense. It took less than a day for Subai to become a saint. If he really needed any honor, he would get it with his own fists. Master triggers the side mission, the dignity of the saint. The queen of the Amazons is testing your strength, and the strongest warrior of the Amazons is challenging the majesty of the saints. Master, please show your strength to your heart's content. The more shocked and frightened the Amazons are, the stronger the effect of the demonstration will be, and the more redemption points will be obtained. Quote. The reminder of the Wheel of Time sounded in Subai's mind. At the same time, Diana quickly walked up to Hippolyte and said softly, "Queen, Subai has proven his origin. He is a noble saint. This battle is completely meaningless. The divine power in Diana's body is in the latent stage, and she has not yet become a real Wonder Woman, so Antiope is ridiculously strong in Diana's heart. Diana has been trained by Antiope since she was a child, and she has never stopped training. In thousands of days and nights, she has never been able to gain the upper hand in Antiope's hands. If Subai hadn't easily crushed two swords just now, Diana might have thought that Subai had no chance of winning. Subai is mysterious and powerful, but will he be Antiope's opponent? He has already proven that he is the noble goddess Asgardian. Diana felt that this fight was meaningless and completely avoidable. It was with this feeling in mind that she stepped forward to stop it. Diana, this has nothing to do with you, step aside. Antiope's tone was stern, even to the point of being unfamiliar, causing Diana's expression to freeze. Diana looked at the queen of the Amazons, her mother, hoping that the latter would stop it. Instead, she noticed the profound meaning in Hippolyte's eyes, and she actually agreed with the fight. My sister's method is still a bit harsh. If you try it slowly, the effect will be even better. Hippolyte believed Subai's words when she took back the noose of truth, but the gods had been missing for more than 100 years, and she did not believe that Subai came to Paradise Island without a purpose. The strength possessed by Subai determines the initiative of both parties. But how strong can the lost warrior who protects the goddess be? As the queen of the Amazons, Hippolyte was once loved by the king of god Zeus, so her vision and mind were naturally broader. Subai is under the banner of the goddess Athena, but her strength is mediocre, so Hippolyte will find a reason as soon as possible to send back the only man on the island. Why, don't you dare to accept it? Antiope at the front drew out the sword and shield worn on his waist and stared at Subai eagerly. Just from her standing posture, it could be seen that she was an extremely experienced warrior. Subai smiled calmly, put his left hand in front of him, and suddenly a dazzling white light flashed. Okay, then let me see what kind of strength the strongest warrior of the Amazon clan has. The white light in Subai's hand disappeared in an instant, appearing as a cube, falling in front of him, and quickly grew in size. The Phoenix Saint cloth that had been stored in the Wheel of Time was taken out by Subai for the first time. The cube has returned to its normal file size. It is a box about 1 meter in length, width and height. It has a thick bronze color and is engraved with 4 soaring phoenixes on all sides. Before anyone else could exclaim, a bright red light suddenly appeared in the box, and a phantom of a fire phoenix came out of it and rushed into the sky. The sound of the phoenix's cry kept echoing. This vision alone is already fascinating. With a click, the box suddenly opened, as if a fire phoenix was burning in the box. It was the holy cloth of the phoenix. It's so magnificent. I don't know who couldn't help but exclaimed and became excited involuntarily. The holy garment is alive, just like a living creature, and has an independent will. At this moment, Subai fully activated the small universe in his body for the first time, calling for the Phoenix Saint cloth. A wave of air rippled out, and strong pressure emerged out of thin air, as if a mountain fell from the sky, pressing down on everyone. Antiope, standing opposite, frowned and no longer had the confidence he had just now. There was another clear cry, and the phoenix-shaped holy cloth of the phoenix seat floated in the air, disintegrated at the speed of lightning and flint, and attached to Subai's body. Subai at this moment can only be described as gorgeous. Subai, who puts on the phoenix sacred cloth, can only be described as gorgeous. Dark red leg armor covers the entire foot and extends to just above the knees. The waist armor engraved with the fire phoenix glyph emits a faint red light, and his fists are transformed by the claws of the phoenix. The breastplate extends to the shoulders, and in the center is the shape of a fire phoenix spreading its wings. There are 3 fiery red phoenix feathers hanging on the back, flying in the wind. Feeling the cheers of the Phoenix Saint clothes, Subai naturally burned the small universe to the maximum. The strong wind blew, and the pressure on everyone suddenly increased. Diana looked at Subai with eyes that were already a little dazzled. This was a mysterious power she had never seen before, a gorgeous holy garment, and the divine power hidden in her body was actually showing signs of awakening. So strong, Subai can really defeat Antiope. Diana had a vague expectation in her heart. The Amazon Valkyrie who seemed invincible in her heart actually seemed a little small in front of Subai at this moment. At least in terms of momentum, Antiope was completely at a disadvantage. Subai, you can win. Diana was a little nervous. She didn't know whether the result was good or bad, but she trusted her intuition. Antiope had already concentrated on it and made Subai his enemy on the spot. Antiope had seen a person who exuded such a powerful aura as Subai, but that was on Mount Olympus 1,000 years ago. When she went to see her, she didn't even make the people in the palace take a second look. Not even qualified. Now, Subai stands in front of her, and the feeling of insignificance that has been erased by time has begun to rise. Antiope kept hitting the shield in his right hand with the sword in his left hand, making a crisp sound, and there were beads of sweat on his palms. What kind of offensive would Subai on the opposite side launch? But I heard Subai say, "Come on, as long as you can make me move 1 step, even if it knocks off one of my hairs, you win." What? Subai's words echoed in the audience, and his expression was calm, not like he was joking at all. Move 1 step and knock off a hair. Such dueling conditions are simply contempt and insult. The Amazons are all tall and strong female warriors. After years of training, it is hard for them to imagine how they can defeat their enemies without moving. Subai didn't take Antiope seriously at all. Antiope's heart suddenly roared with rage, and he wanted to press Subai to the ground and flatten him. Her mind became clearer, a trace of determination flashed in her eyes, she gathered strength under her feet, and her speed was comparable to that of a cheetah, and she pounced towards Subai. Don't be too confident, man. With a strong shield in front of him, Antiope squatted down, like a big bow, aiming at Subai's chin from top to bottom. Work hard. The Amazons present already understood that this blow could easily crush the boulder into powder. But Subai shook his head. Perhaps Antiope had trained to a level beyond the reach of ordinary people, but for Subai, it was still too slow. Antiope's offensive intentions all fell into Subai's eyes. Subai just raised his right hand slightly, as if stroking a kitten at home, and then his hand fell on Antiope's shield and pressed it gently. There was a click sound. No one expected that Antiope, who had launched a charged attack, let out a muffled groan and was actually suppressed. The most noble warrior of the Amazon clan was kneeling on one knee in front of Subai. The crisp sound was the sound of Antiope's bones cracking. If it weren't for Antiope's strong will, he would have fainted from the pain on the spot. Her reaction was extremely fast. The first attack failed, and she quickly revealed the sharp sword behind the shield and stabbed Subai straight into the abdomen. Subai's palm was forward, facing the sword, and he pushed it forward. There was a sound like breaking glass, and the sword actually disintegrated in front of Subai's palm. As Subai's palm moves forward, the sword body disintegrates until it becomes invisible. But there was not even a trace of white marks left on Subai's palm. Subai is not exaggerating. The Saint Seiya's defensive power, like his offensive power, far exceeds the imagination of ordinary people. The saints of the awakening microcosm can smash atoms, and their bodies are protected by the microcosms. If you want to hurt the saints, you need the power to crush atoms. If we do not take into account magic and energy attacks, and only use pure physical attacks to calculate it, it would take at least 1,000 tons of huge force to burst out in an instant and be completely concentrated at one point to break through Subai's defense. In other words, every punch Subai throws has at least 1,000 tons of force, and the punch speed reaches the speed of sound. How could Antiope's attack hurt Subai, who was wearing the holy robe? As the strongest Amazon warrior, Antiope's eyes were already shaken, but he still didn't want to admit defeat and wanted to attack Subai from the low side. Subai looked down indifferently, and did not stop him. Instead, he turned sideways and pointed at the sea, and punched lightly. At this moment, Antiope finally stopped. All the Amazon female warriors, including the queen, opened their eyes wide, even screamed in fear, and several of them even couldn't help but retreat. Subai's punch actually caused the sea to part. The blue sea seemed to be cut open by a sharp sword. Using Subai's fist as the baseline, a large passage of 5 meters separated the left and right sides. This was a blow in which Subai concentrated all his strength. With the strength and speed of Subai at the moment, the punch would inevitably generate powerful kinetic energy. The power of a punch can actually separate the sea. Congratulations, Master. Wonder Woman Diana's attitude towards you has changed from ordinary to admiration. Her favorability has increased by 10 points. Current favorability, 30. Because of the Master's perfect performance, Queen Hippolyte's attitude towards the Master turned into fear. Because of the Master's power, Antiope's attitude towards the Master turned into fear. Congratulations, Master, for completing the side mission, the dignity of the saint. Completion, 100%. Congratulations to the owner for earning 2,000 redemption points and getting a chance to strengthen his physical fitness. The reminder of the Wheel of Time sounded in Subai's mind. The waves smoothed away the traces of the time. The Amazons on one side had not yet recovered from the shock. Beads of sweat had already appeared on Antiope's forehead. She did not dare to raise her head to look at Subai in front of her. She knew that she had failed, and the defeat was ugly, and she could not even retain a bit of dignity as a warrior. Antiope offended the divine messenger without permission and didn't take her down. Hippolyte's voice sounded first in the field. The queen was also shocked by Subai's strength. How long has it been since she saw such a powerful force? She clenched her hands tightly, fearing that Subai would show his power and punch Antiope. And her name for Subai changed from human being to godly messenger, without realizing it, and she already felt that the previous temptation was a big mistake. The two Amazon warriors suddenly realized this and hurriedly stepped forward to capture Antiope. They carefully passed in front of Subai and retreated to the rear. Hippolyte secretly took a deep breath, her expression softened again, and she bowed and said, "Please forgive Antiope for her unreasonable offense. She will be severely punished. In order to make up for the trouble she caused to the divine envoy, the Amazons have prepared a sumptuous dinner in the palace to invite the gods to come." Subai chuckled lightly and thought to himself, the scene in front of him really echoes the old saying, a big fist means the truth. It's not that Subai doesn't have a little bit of pride in his heart, it was just a small test of his skills just now. Subai did not refuse, and he had no way to leave Paradise Island. Only Queen Hippolyte knew how to open the magic barrier of Paradise Island. It's hard to find a Paradise Island, but it's even harder to get out. When Subai saw information about Paradise Island on the internet, he felt a little strange. Outsiders could come in after finding out, but it was difficult for people inside to get out. What settings? At that time, Subai was in a hurry to watch a movie and didn't take a closer look. Subai wanted to secretly try to see if he could break through the barrier of Paradise Island from the inside, but after taking only 2 steps, Diana quietly came up to him. Diana looked at Subai and the Phoenix Saint cloth on Subai's body with curiosity. She thought Subai hadn't noticed, and wanted to touch the holy robe quietly from behind, with unconcealable envy in her eyes. Unexpectedly, as soon as Diana touched the holy cloth, she felt an astonishing temperature. The holy cloth has will and life, and will only look good on those it recognizes. Obviously, Diana is not that person yet. Diana hurriedly retracted her hands. If she hadn't held back, she would have almost shouted. Her brows were swaying, and the expression on her face was as colorful as spilled condiments. Subai, who had everything in his mind, didn't bother to point it out. With a smile on his lips, he turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" "It's okay." Diana hurriedly retracted her hands behind her back and forced out a twisted smile. It would be too embarrassing if Subai discovered her little move. But Diana felt that Subai must have discovered her and was permed by the holy clothes. She couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. She imagined that if she also had such a set of holy clothes, she would have to compete with Subai. The group of people walked towards the center of Paradise Island and passed through the iron gate on the edge of the white cliff, which was a wide square. The square is circular, with 12 statues standing in 12 directions, corresponding to the ancient Greek timetable. The 12 statues are the 12 main gods in ancient Greek mythology. The leader is Zeus holding thunder and lightning in his hand, which is sacred and solemn. Behind the square is a group of low buildings, which should be the living buildings of the Amazons, all surrounding a circular arena. Behind the arena is a slope, and going up is a grand palace made of white stone. All the buildings are in the ancient Greek style. They are ancient and have been washed by the long river of time. Entering the palace, it is naturally extremely magnificent. The Amazons on the island spent hundreds of years building the palace, and every part is embodying ingenuity. Such a daughter's junior high school is indispensable for celebrations with singing and dancing, fine wine and delicious food. During the dinner, Hippolyte never mentioned what happened on the beach. He kept a smile on his face throughout the whole process and tried his best to show the friendship between host and guest. His social ability was so perfect that he even made Diana look at him with a blank eye and wondered if the queen was too enthusiastic. After the dinner, 2 maids took Subai to the most luxurious bedroom. Subai sat on the edge of the bed and shook her head vigorously to confirm that everything that happened today was not a dream. Now that it's here, let's make peace with it. Let's take stock of the harvest first. For completing the side mission, Subai received 2,000 redemption points and an opportunity to strengthen his physical fitness. Regarding physical fitness strengthening, the explanation given by the Wheel of Time is to adjust the muscles, bones, blood and even cells in the body to the best state of human beings. It is recommended that the host take the lead in physical strengthening, which can greatly enhance the host's coordination, improve blood circulation, increase explosive power, and repair minor problems left by the host. Although he obtained a small universe, Subai's figure has not changed much. It is definitely more credible to say that he is a magician than a saint. After all, he does not even have a prominent muscle, and he does not appear to exercise regularly. Subai did not use hesitation and directly used the opportunity to strengthen his physical fitness. A golden light emerged out of thin air and penetrated into Subai's body. Strengthening only happened in the blink of an eye, but for Subai, it was a long process. He could clearly feel the growth and division of cells, the flow of blood faster, and the heartbeat faster. The muscles digested the mysterious power contained in the golden light, swelled, and presented the most perfect streamlined shape, which was not overly exaggerated but also demonstrated the explosive power contained within. The bones in various parts of the body made a sound like frying beans, became denser, and increased by 5 centimeters out of thin air. After coming back to his senses, Subai felt that even his breathing became smoother. From the mirror in the dormitory, he could clearly see that the outline of his muscles seemed to be carved by the god of beauty, perfectly in line with the proportion of the golden section, with smooth and healthy lines. As for the beauty, just one look at it can make a young girl feel flustered. The only fly in the ointment is that during the strengthening process, some black substances seeped out from the pores of the skin, which are harmful substances that have been expelled. It was very uncomfortable to stick to the skin, which made Subai frown slightly. Starting from his right hand, Subai precisely controlled the force of each muscle. After a slight tremor, he peeled off the black substance on the surface of the skin, but he was still a little unsatisfied. The holy cloth of the phoenix seat can be stored in the space of the Wheel of Time, and all items produced by the Wheel of Time can be stored, and there happens to be a large bath in the dormitory. The water in the bathhouse is light blue and translucent, something Subai has never seen before. When you soak in it, you will feel slightly warm. The fatigue from your whole body will be swept away, and you will feel a sense of relief that goes straight to your head. Wheel of Time, bring up the exchange list and show it to me. Subai also received 2,000 redemption points. He soaked in the bath and started his first redemption comfortably. As you command, Master. Soon, Subai discovered that his order was too broad, or that the Wheel of Time was really as it said, capable of redeeming everything in the universe. Countless small icons appeared in Subai's mind, all in the format of name, effect, source, redemption points. After browsing hundreds of items, Subai quickly discovered something interesting. All the items in the Saint Seiya Universe power system are purple, while the items in other power systems are all red. Wheel of Time explained. The owner can definitely redeem items from other power systems, but there will be an exchange penalty and you will have to pay 3 times the original exchange points. The owner chose the small universe power system, and the items in the system can enjoy the half-price discount exchange rule. Subai laughed. It's interesting. Let's screen out all the things related to Saint Seiya. The icons in my mind rotated rapidly, leaving only about 10,000, which can be roughly divided into 2 parts, combat clothing and fighting ability. The battle clothes include not only the holy clothes, but also the scale clothes, divine clothes, Ming clothes and Chu Gen. Chu Gen, the artifact and battle suit granted by Gia, the mother goddess of the Titan, to the 12 gods of Titan. It is an artifact that combines offense and defense, and its performance is far superior to that of the golden holy suit. Subai clicked his tongue and looked at the first piece of Chu Gen, the great scythe of Cronus, which can cut off time and space, split dimensions, and cut through nothingness. Its usual form is a black scythe of extremely huge amounts, with the ability to reflect all attacks. The original price was 1 million redemption points, and the current price is 500,000 redemption points. Even with a 50% discount, I can't afford it. Subai shook his head and looked down. The Gemini Golden Saint Cloth, Armor of Light, a battle suit that has never been destroyed, originally has a function that can absorb light and can convert the light shining on it into energy. The original price is 100,000 redemption points, and the current price is 50,000 redemption points. Further down, even the cheapest bronze holy cloth requires 5,000 redemption points. Subai simply stopped looking at it to avoid being itchy, and shifted his attention to the second category, fighting ability. There are even more categories of fighting ability. Subai casually scanned and saw many exciting projects. Lucian Shenglongba. The explosive power is enough to make the Lucian waterfall flow upstream 3,000 feet. This is the fighting ability that only belongs to the saints. The original price is 2,000 redemption points, the current price is 1,000 redemption points. Galactic Starburst. Golden fighting ability, release your own small universe to the limit, and focus energy on the opponent. Its power is enough to rival the supernova explosion that destroys the galaxy. The original price is 30,000 points for redemption, and the current price is 15,000 points for redemption. Athena's Wonder, single-player version, Forbidden Secrets, as powerful as the Big Bang that created the universe. The original price is 100,000 redemption points, and the current price is 50,000 redemption points. The 12 Zodiacs Roar, single-player version, breaking through the limit, the 12 constellations of the Zodiac appear behind you. The most powerful secret is released by combining the constellation moves of the 12 golden saints. Eclipse time and space, and the destructive power is far beyond Athena's wonder. The original price was 1 million redemption points, and the current price is 500,000 redemption points. The more Su-bai looked at it, the more he felt that 2,000 redemption points were simply not enough. There were too many things he wanted to redeem, but the points were limited, so in the end he could only focus on the Phoenix fighting skills. He is now a Phoenix Saint, and the Phoenix's fighting skills are most suitable for him. Phoenix Wings Tianxiang. Essentially, the fist is pressed around the body to create a strong hurricane like the wings of a phoenix, and then the Fire Phoenix shockwave is launched. Huge amounts of wind and shockwave are blasted at the opponent together, which is powerful enough to shatter the stars. The original price is 4,000 redemption points, the current price is 2,000 redemption points. After Phoenix Wings and Sky Soaring, there are also moves such as Phoenix Magic Fist, Phoenix Immortal Flame, Coronal Wind, and Dark Sun. When I watched the animation, I thought Phoenix didn't have many moves. The Wheel of Time should have listed all the fighting abilities of the Phoenix Saints throughout the ages. Su-bai didn't have to choose, and directly chose Feng Yi Tian Shang. The skills of Feng Yi Tian Shang poured into Su-bai's mind. As Su-bai expected, the power of Feng Yi Tian Shang can become stronger as the small universe increases. I have to set a small goal for myself. Let's earn 100,000 redemption points first. Su-bai sat in the bathtub and thought about the 5,000 exchange points related to Diana, but Su-bai was not good at making girls like him. Before, he was quite envious of those cashiers who relied on their looks to make a living. Now that he met them, he would probably raise his hand and say softly, "Look, the stars in the sky exploded." It must feel refreshing. Just when Su-bai was thinking wildly, a beautiful figure sneaked in at an extremely fast speed. The moment Su-bai came back to her senses, Diana said hello, "Hi. Good evening." Su-bai wanted to raise his hand to respond, but a flash of lightning flashed in his mind. He secretly said, "I'm going to eat French," and then he looked down. Well, the water in the bath is translucent. Wonder Woman Diana is very satisfied with your figure. Favorability +1, current favorability, 31. What the hell? Su-bai covered the vital points below as quickly as possible, but Diana had an "I've seen it before" look on her face and stood by the bathtub with her hands on her hips. Diana, who had been living on the Paradise Island, still felt strange in her heart. What should be covered up when taking a bath? Su-bai just wanted to ask, "Don't you know the difference between men and women?" But when he thought that there were only women on Paradise Island, and Diana had lived in this primitive and closed environment for 20 years, she just wanted to slap her forehead. Then I thought about it, I couldn't even pat my forehead. If I took out one hand, I couldn't cover it up at all. I can only feel resentment towards the water in this pool and let myself relax my vigilance. Diana glanced at Su-bai again with curiosity. She blushed inexplicably and her heart beat faster. She became even more dissatisfied and asked, "Did you lie to me?" This Su-bai actually hides a perfect body of muscles. Even if he is not a saint, he will not drown, right? You actually can't swim. Su-bai coughed twice and hurriedly said, "In my hometown, there is a magical fruit called devil fruit. Devil fruit can give the eater powerful abilities, but the side effect is that he cannot swim. But only after eating devil fruit, only by using the fruit can I become a saint, so I can't swim." What the hell, what on earth am I talking about? Old thief Oda, go away. Diana glanced at Su-bai suspiciously, and then heard Su-bai shout, "Turn around quickly." After another vengeful glance, Diana decided not to pursue the matter for the time being, and asked curiously, "Are you a typical man?" Su-bai, who was getting dressed, was stunned for a moment, then glanced down, shook his head and chuckled, "It should be far beyond the level of ordinary people now." When the chatter stopped, Diana turned around and looked around, probably looking for Su-bai's phoenix cloth. She has no resistance to this gorgeous armor. After searching carefully with her eyes, she couldn't find anything. Diana remembered the scene where Su-bai took out the holy clothing. She couldn't help but curled her lips and thought to herself, such a precious and gorgeous armor is not worn all the time, like that. Only others can see it. If Su-bai finds out, he will definitely retort loudly, "You broke in while you were taking a shower, okay." Not seeing the holy clothes, Diana's face became serious. Lord Saint, tell me your purpose of coming to Paradise Island. What purpose could it have? Isn't this a novice village? Your mother is the head of novice village. Su-bai rolled her eyes in her heart, but when it comes to the purpose. In fact, before time travel, Su-bai didn't know how much she envied the superheroes in those movies, but when she actually came to this kind of world, she felt deeply uneasy. Is this Wonder Woman's world? Or is it the DC dimension? Or even the entire American comic universe? What role do I play? Save humanity, protect justice, or listen to evil? It's really not that easy to be a superhero. If we talk about the purpose, it is to become stronger and survive. However, Su-bai would definitely not say what he was thinking, and instead asked, "Did the Queen ask you to come?" "No, I'm just curious, but I'm sure the Queen also wants to know." Diana shook her head and recalled Hippolyte's bright smile at the dinner party. In fact, she was already panicking at that time. Su-bai coughed and put on a serious face. "In that case, it doesn't matter if I tell you. The reason for my trip is because of Ares. Ares, god of war. For as long as Diana can remember, Ares has existed in her mind as a bloodthirsty and bloody image. Hippolyte rarely mentioned the divine war initiated by Ares 100 years ago that almost destroyed the entire Greek pantheon, but often looked back to the heyday of the gods thousands of years ago. At that time, Ares revealed his bloodthirsty nature and became the most notorious among the 12 gods. Ares often transforms into a mortal to instigate wars in the human world, because the disputes in the human world are the source of his power. The more wars there are, the stronger Ares's divine power becomes. In Diana's eyes, Ares is a symbol of evil. She immediately understood and said in a solemn tone, "Ares has reappeared in the world." Su-bai nodded. "Ares has provoked war in the entire human world. He has become the embodiment of human disaster. Defeating Ares is the inherent duty of the saints, and they will not hesitate to sacrifice their lives. I came to Paradise Island precisely to find a way to defeat Ares." Defeating Ares is the main plot of Wonder Woman. There is no way it can be mistaken. Su-bai murmured something in his heart, but he didn't expect that the flag that he put up casually would immediately get a response from the Wheel of Time. "Congratulations to the Master for initiating the Level 1 mission, defeating Ares, the god of war. The evil Ares has awakened again and is trying to stir up global strife. This world needs heroes to save it. The mission is successful and you will be rewarded with 10,000 redemption points. Does the Master accept the mission?" Su-bai glanced at Diana. Although he didn't know how strong Ares really was, because Diana could share the burden, it shouldn't be too difficult, so he naturally chose to accept it. And Diana is obviously much more caring than Su-bai. Among the concepts she has been instilled in her since she was a child, the Amazons exist to defeat Ares. This is her innate mission. "Congratulations, Master." Wonder Woman Diana matches your philosophy. You two have a common goal. Diana's favorability towards you has increased. It is currently 35 points. The God-killing sword. Legend has it that Zeus left the God-killing sword on Paradise Island. Only by holding the God-killing sword in hand can we defeat Ares. Diana remembered the myths and legends that Hippolyte had instilled in her, and she was very excited and shouted softly, "Ares reappears in the world, I must report to the Queen and get the God-killing sword." In Diana's mind, human beings are as beautiful and innocent as in fairy tales, kind and ignorant of disputes. She is already imagining the suffering of mankind with compassion, and she can't wait to eliminate Ares and save the world. Diana quickly ran out of Su-bai's bedroom and rushed to Hippolyte's bedroom. Su-bai looked at her back and sighed softly. "I don't know whether it is a good thing or a bad thing to have such a teammate who is inexperienced in the world and is like a blank slate." Afterwards, Su-bai sat down cross-legged, preparing to catch the starlight in the night sky and start practicing the small universe for the first time. When he obtained the small universe power system, the method of cultivation was already engraved in Su-bai's mind. The vast sea of stars gradually took shape in Su-bai's mind, and Su-bai's perception spread to an unprecedented extent. The nature surrounding the Paradise Island, and the slight breath of every plant and tree, all reflected Su-bai's soul. But soon, Su-bai frowned and interrupted his first small universe practice. He closed his eyes and felt again before confirming, "There is actually a huge hidden space under Paradise Island, Diana was destined not to see Hippolyte tonight. In a small secret room in the palace, Hippolyte and Antiope, who rarely met alone, sat down at a table. Ever since it was discovered that Antiope secretly taught Diana martial arts, the relationship between the sisters has cooled down rapidly. If Subai had not appeared, the differences in philosophy between the two would have grown larger. Under the flickering candlelight, Hippolyte finally spoke. A demigod, you actually provoke a demigod in public and want to fight with him. In the Greek pantheon, above humans, there are demigods, secondary gods, main gods, and god-kings. The difference between demigods and demigods is that the latter already possess godhood and master the priesthood. Whether he is a god-king or a demigod, Hippolyte has seen them all after living for thousands of years. The power of Subai is that of a demigod without godhead. Antiope snorted coldly. The bandage on her knee did not hide her enthusiasm. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that Subai will kill you? As long as you tell him that the god King Zeus set up a magic barrier on Paradise Island 100 years ago, only you know the way out. As long as you tell him that no life has escaped from the magic barrier in 100 years, he will definitely please you calmly. A cold light flashed in Hippolyte's eyes, and she slapped the table hard. She lost any of the nobility that a queen should have, and her expression was ferocious. Instead, she looked like a poisonous woman. Then have you ever thought about it? What if Subai had no plan at all? What about leaving? The entire Amazon clan will become his slaves. Do you miss those miserable times? No one on Paradise Island is his opponent. You wouldn't place your hopes on that Subai. He will abide by Athena's noble instructions, right? The anger in Antiope's eyes suddenly turned into hatred, and he shouted, no one is his opponent. Where is Diana? If you hadn't stopped me from training Diana, Diana would have become a demigod. Even the Lord God and God King. You know how much potential Diana has. She is not the rags you hide in the treasure house. She is the god-killing sword left by God King Zeus. 11. The Secret of Paradise Island. Antiope's cold words were like a dagger, piercing deeply into Hippolyte's heart. The latter could only tremble and say, Diana is my daughter. It's a pity that she was not born in your belly. Wake up, hiding is not an option, Ares will come to you one day. When he returns, no one will be able to save Paradise Island. There was a struggle in Hippolyte's eyes, and her previously firm belief began to waver because of the changes brought about by Subai. Antiope took advantage of the victory and pursued her, and said eagerly, Subai has already come, what are you still hesitating about? Tell Diana the truth, tell her that she is the most noble daughter of the God King in the world. Only Diana can save Paradise Island. 100 years ago, you made a mistake once, which forced the people to migrate to Paradise Island. I don't want you to make a second mistake. Hippolyta, wake up. Antiope's voice became louder and louder, and finally turned into a loud roar. She originally thought that Hippolyte's psychological defense would be broken through in one fell swoop. Unexpectedly, after a short silence, a cold look appeared on Hippolyte's face again. I don't need you to teach me what to do. Just take good care of yourself. Hippolyta stood up from the chair and left without even looking at Antiope, but her steps were heavier than when she came. On the other side, Subai, who practices microcosm, accidentally discovered that there is a huge amount of space hidden under the Paradise Island. If heaven looks like the pyramids in appearance, then the huge space underground is the shape of the pyramids inverted. Subai's curiosity suddenly reached its peak, and the two men disappeared into the dormitory, becoming a phantom in the dark night. When they stopped again, they had arrived in a deserted wilderness. The small universe stirred slightly, and a fiery power belonging to the phoenix began to spread. The ground under the feet, whether it was rocks or sand, all automatically melted. In this way, more than 50 meters down, a light blue barrier appeared on Subai's eyes. On this layer of light blue barrier, there are thunder lights that are constantly shining, emitting powerful power that even Subai dare not underestimate. Such a barrier cannot be set up by the Amazons. It can only be the work of God King Zeus, the founder of Paradise Island. The phoenix sacred cloth was put on again, and the small universe burned to the maximum extent. A trace of caution flashed in Subai's eyes, and he gathered all his strength and struck the barrier with one blow. The lightning quickly dissipated all the energy without even a ripple spreading. The strength and operation of the barrier exceeded Su-bai's imagination. This underground space is completely shrouded in barriers. If you can't find the correct entrance, it may be difficult to enter. Su-bai wanted to find out, but found that some Amazon tribesmen had noticed something strange here and rushed over. Leaping out of the underground space, Su-bai lightly stamped his feet and raised his hand. The surrounding sand and stones were driven by huge force to float in the air and rotate, forming a small sandstorm, gradually burying the traces left behind. When the two Amazons arrived, the surrounding soil was renovated and half a meter shorter, but no trace could be found. How can the Amazons break through such a barrier? What is in the underground space? Where is the entrance? When he went back, Su-bai kept thinking about this question in his mind, but he couldn't figure it out. I can only find the answer on Paradise Island. Early the next morning, Hippolyte asked to see Su-bai and invited him to the palace. Compared to the state at the dinner, Hippolyte was much more respectful, even to the point of being cautious. Definitely, this was all superficial. Su-bai would not believe that this queen who had lived for thousands of years could be so humble and peaceful in her heart. After some detours with Su-bai, Hippolyte finally got to the point. I wonder what the purpose of your trip is. Ares has appeared again. The whole world has fallen into a melee. 23 countries and nearly 100 million people are participating in the war, with millions of casualties. Every time Su-bai said something, the faces of the Amazon guards in the palace became uglier, including Hippolyte. It wasn't that she didn't expect Su-bai to come because of Ares, but she just didn't want to believe that Ares had regained some of his strength so quickly. Indeed, God King Zeus left a god-killing sword on Paradise Island 100 years ago. I should have guessed what you were thinking and sent someone to get it for you now. Hippolyte's mind was racing, but he wanted to firmly hold the initiative in his hands. It would be best if a so-called god-killing sword could kill Su-bai. But just as she finished speaking, Diana's clear voice was heard. Queen, the god-killing sword can only exert its due power when it is in the hands of Amazons. This is a myth passed down, so I please come out of the island together and fight against Ares. The scene was silent. Hippolyte did not expect that Diana would come out at this time and tear her down. What she couldn't refute was that she had instilled all the myths and legends about the Amazons into Diana. As the Amazon queen, what she tells is naturally a heavily beautified version. And Hippolyte didn't even expect that. Unknowingly, Diana had already sided with Su-bai. Because of Ares' bewitchment, mankind has fallen into strife, and millions of people have died. Humanity is the leader of all spirits created by God King Zeus. Ares is the mortal enemy of the Amazons. The Amazons cannot sit still and wait for death. Quote. Diana's impassioned voice echoed in the palace, not noticing that Hippolyte's hands were clenched tightly and the veins on both sides of her temples had popped out. She couldn't blame Su-bai. After all, she was the one who educated Diana from childhood to adulthood. At the moment, it had the opposite effect of huge amounts. Hippolyte looked at Su-bai secretly and found that Su-bai's face was calm, like the calm before the storm. There was not much change, and she felt even more nervous. Her thoughts turned quickly and she immediately made amends. Definitely, in order to display the power of killing gods, with the power of the sword, the Amazons will hold a grand selection to let the best warriors fight alongside you against Ares. Then, Hippolyte stared at Diana with complicated eyes. Diana, as the heir to Paradise Island, is not allowed to participate. Why, Queen, I have the ability to prove that I am an excellent warrior. After a brief moment of astonishment, Diana's face turned red. She couldn't figure out why the queen would make such a decision. Su-bai sneered in his heart and thought to himself, what a cunning old man. He wants to send me away with a broken sword. If he were an ordinary person, he would really be fooled by this queen who has a lot of power in the city. Su-bai did not attack immediately. At this time, a loud noise suddenly came into the palace. What happened? Tight and dense footsteps sounded, and a guard in heavy armor rushed into the palace, knelt on one knee, and reported, Queen, a large number of intruders have been found on the East Beach. The guards are already fighting the intruders. Quote. Hippolyte's first reaction was to look at Su-bai. She never had the slightest sense of trust in Su-bai. Her subconscious reaction was that Su-bai was a pioneer and brought in foreign enemies. Su-bai's expression remained unchanged. In this short period of time, two more loud noises were heard. Ordinary Amazons were stunned. The sound was like thunder, and even the ground shook slightly. What kind of enemy could launch such a strong attack? How could the Amazons, who lived like primitive people, know that the outside world had already undergone earth-shaking changes? Hippolyte hurried out of the palace, followed closely by Diana and a group of guards, rushing to the East Beach. Su-bai was not anxious at all. In such a critical moment, all the Amazons were fully armed, but the palace was empty. Su-bai searched the entire palace at an extremely fast speed and wondered, the entrance to the underground space is not in the palace, so where could it be? At the moment, Su-bai slowly walked out of the palace, stepped lightly, and stood at the highest point of the palace, taking in the situation of the beach to the east. On the beach, a plane wreckage was emitting thick smoke, and raging fires were burning. One after another, soldiers used kayaks to land. Judging from the badge on the left shoulder, it was the army of the German Empire and the Amazon female warriors fighting together. On the sea, there were 3 large warships watching eagerly. The naval guns were swung out, spitting out fire snakes, and blasting the shells into the defense line of Paradise Island. No matter how strong the Amazons were, with quick reflexes and armed with long bows and swords, how could they be opponents of spears and cannons? The soldiers who landed gradually gained an advantage in terms of quantity. The most critical point is that the strongest warrior of the Amazon clan has been injured in the battle with Su-bai, and has become a semi-disabled state, making things worse. It has completely become a confrontation between primitive people and modern people. Bullets kept piercing the bodies of the Amazons, taking away lives one after another. Even if a sword cut these German soldiers in half from head to toe, the Amazons still suffered heavy casualties under the complete suppression of firepower. Hippolyte, who was on the battlefield in person, panicked. How can these mortals control such a powerful force? It's impossible. In the face of technology, the Queen's Majesty disappeared. At the moment, Hippolyte first set her hopeful eyes on Diana, and found that the latter was already in a hard fight, with bloodstains on her face for the first time, but there are still some limitations. At this moment, Hippolyte regretted it and felt deeply remorseful for her cowardice and ignorance. Is the Amazon clan going to perish today? Su-bai's face suddenly flashed across Hippolyte's mind. Su-bai, as long as Su-bai takes action, the Amazons can be saved. Diana was also shouting in her heart, Su-bai, where is Su-bai? Su-bai's heroic figure appeared in the minds of many Amazons, and the same voice shouted in their hearts. It would be hard for them to imagine that Su-bai was sitting leisurely at the highest point of the palace, taking in all this scene. The Amazon won't sell until he's at his most desperate. There were about 2,000 German soldiers who landed on Paradise Island. Their ferocious smiling faces looked like devils crawling out of hell against the backdrop of the artillery fire. The sharp sword in her hand pierced the enemy's chest. This was the first time for Diana to witness the madness of the soldiers. At the moment when their lives were about to end, they did not forget to pull the trigger in their hands and let the ruthless muzzle of the gun make a sharp sound. It was also the first time that Diana was stained with human blood. Actual combat was far more cruel than training. She could no longer remember which one she had killed in front of her. She looked at Queen Hippolyte and found that the queen had already drawn the sharp sword from her waist and was moving among the enemies. The bloody wound on her left shoulder was particularly terrifying and eye-catching. Diana roared countless times, but to no avail. The Amazons fell one by one, with more than half of them dead or injured. A group of about 50 German soldiers even set up a positional battle formation, taking turns to shoot and harvest lives. Where is Su-bai? Su-bai. Placing hope on God King Zeus had no effect, and the figure of Su-bai appeared in Diana's mind involuntarily. Only Su-bai can change the situation of the battle. Diana was not disappointed for long. Finally, a clear call from an unknown bird sounded from the Paradise Island. Looking back, you can see the shadow of a phoenix rushing into the sky. This vision attracted everyone's attention, and the soldiers on both sides were stunned. What is that? The German commander on the warship couldn't believe what he saw through the telescope. His throat that had been screaming suddenly fell silent, and even his eyes were a little dull. A ball of fiery red light, like a comet, hit the battlefield from midair, making the entire Paradise Island tremble. When the light dissipated, a mysterious man wearing armor was revealed. The German commander swore that even in the collection room of the German emperor, there would not be such a magnificent treasure. The armor seemed to be made from heaven and could not be made by human craftsmanship. Because of the appearance of this mysterious man, the natives, who were on the verge of collapse, actually cheered in victory. He is the patron saint of these indigenous people. Fire, fire quickly. After a brief shock, the German commander immediately came to his senses, and the messenger immediately understood. The artillery fire continued to roar, and 3 signal flares rose above the sea level. Attack, continue to attack. The German soldiers on the island looked at Subai and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Only by actually visiting the scene in person can they feel the tremendous pressure coming from Subai. Facing Subai is like facing a god. Several times, the German captain not far from Subai wanted to pull the rifle in his hand, but his hands couldn't stop shaking. For some reason, he didn't have any courage. Subai felt the hopeful and grateful eyes of the Amazons, and then looked at the 3 warships on the sea, with a smile on his lips. His small universe had burned to its maximum, and a faint red light appeared on his body. This red light quickly condensed into the shape of a fire phoenix, with its wings spread, and it was actually 20 meters wide. Is this still a human being? A German soldier tremblingly dropped the gun in his hand. He had gradually come to believe in science and Darwin's theory of species evolution. At the moment, his views were shattered by fright. Run, run. It was not just this German soldier who shouted like this. On the battlefield, the German soldiers who had the absolute upper hand just now were so frightened that they collapsed and all retreated. Even the Amazons who were Subai's allies couldn't help but swallow their saliva at the moment, and sighed secretly, he is too powerful. Is he the reincarnation of the ancient gods? Subai's move was so powerful. It was the new move he had just learned, phoenix wings and sky soaring. When the red light on his right hand was at its peak, the phoenix pattern behind Subai spread its wings and soared, and with Subai's roar, it struck towards the sea with infinite power. This small space was dyed with a layer of light red, and all objects that stood in front of the madness were turned into powder. The Amazons all looked at everything in front of them blankly, watching the invincible fire phoenix attack the 3 warships. Turn quickly. The German commander yelled crazily. The mysterious man on the coast was beyond the scope of human beings. He was an alien, right? This is the power within human control. He shouted, but no one responded. Looking back, even his guard jumped lightly from the deck and jumped into the sea. Jump off the ship. Vulcan is angry. By the time the German commander reacted, there was no chance. Boom. With the sound of huge amounts of sound, the fire phoenix easily crushed 3 warships. The 3 originally powerful sea fortresses and the imperial spear that cost a huge amount of money to build turned into nothingness in just a few dozen seconds. The German soldiers who survived by chance turned their heads in shock, stared at Subai with fearful eyes, and chose to kneel down without hesitation, clasped their hands together, and knelt down crazily. Surrender, I surrender. Please don't kill me, I surrender. Chapter 11. The remaining German troops all threw down their weapons and chose to surrender. The power shown by Subai has surpassed their cognition and is almost mythical. Coupled with the pressure that Subai's small universe has been emitting, they almost collapsed and lost the will to resist. Subai was not satisfied, however. After Feng Yi Tianxiang's power crushed the warship, it lowered the surrounding sea surface and blasted towards the far side of the sea level. Soon it encountered a light blue barrier, which was melted by invisible, that it was a barrier set by God King Zeus, and Feng Yi Tianxiang's strongest attack failed to break through it. Subai withdrew his gaze and glanced at the plane wreckage on the beach. It was for the people on this plane that the German army accidentally entered the boundary of Paradise Island. If I'm not mistaken, you are the male lead in Wonder Woman. Let's go. Among the wreckage of the plane, there was a burned and black body. The plane that was supposed to crash into the sea crashed on the beach. It should be the butterfly effect caused by Subai. The original male lead died so tragically that no one present even knew his name. With a sigh in his heart, Subai walked towards Diana and Hippolyte again, and said, Ares' power just penetrated in. This is a perfect reason that can convince most Amazons. Ares invaded Paradise Island with his minions. Subai first contended with Ares' evil power, and then immediately came to another battlefield, rescued the Amazons from the minions of Ares. In the hearts of Amazon people, Subai has become a well-deserved hero. After all, it was Subai who showed overwhelming strength and defeated the German army. He said that there is the evil power of Ares, so there is. Congratulations, Master, your reputation among the Amazons has become reverence. The Amazons worship you, believe in you, and regard you as a legendary hero. Congratulations, Master, Wonder Woman Diana's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 40. But Hippolyte knew that even if Subai found any reason, she would not be able to question it. Subai sneered in his heart, and the moment he passed by Hippolyte, a cold voice came out, "You should be glad that Diana exists." This simple sentence, which only Hippolyte heard, made Hippolyte tremble all over. The meaning of Subai's words was so realistic and cruel. The reason why he took action was entirely because of Diana. Otherwise, even if the Amazons were exterminated, he probably wouldn't care. Hippolyte understood that it was not that Subai didn't care about her little moves, but that he took everything into account and then calculated the total account. He must know Diana's secret, he is here just for Diana. Hippolyte's clever heart was only trembling at this moment. Subai thought of this effect. He was slowly adapting to the changes brought about by the power and slowly looking for his own identity. Fortunately, he had ability. If he had it to do over again, Subai would never think of gaining favor with the Amazons. He could conquer them if he had a big fist. Once again, he would never let the lasso of truth wrap around his wrist, and he would not compromise with the weak. The sudden arrival of the Wheel of Time gave him extraordinarily powerful powers. Metamorphosis from an ordinary high school student to an outstanding leader takes time. It cannot be achieved overnight. Subai is working hard. Subai, thanks to your intervention, the Amazon family was finally saved. On the other side, Diana felt quite remorseful. Looking at the corpses of the tribesmen, her eyes were already red. For the first time, she felt the malice of the world and the horror of war. With tears in her eyes, she took Subai's wrist and said, "Everything is Ares's fault. It was Ares who bewitched these humans and made them bloodthirsty and cruel. Only by destroying Ares can this end." Subai was at a loss for words and could only use a head touch to kill, and said with some distress, "Maybe. Without Ares, humans will not stop fighting." Subai already had the answer to this question in her mind, but it was not suitable to tell Diana now. Diana's hatred for Ares grew even more. Scolding and crying continued, and the female warriors of the Amazon clan began to clean up the battlefield. The captured German soldiers looked at Subai with horrified eyes, and were then escorted into a cell. During this period, they inevitably suffered all kinds of torture. Because of the existence of the mantra lasso, all the information was quickly extracted from the mouths of these prisoners. It is now 1918 AD. The entire world is in war, and more than 10 million humans have died. The troops that invaded Paradise Island are from the German Empire. They entered Paradise Island by chance in order to hunt down a spy. Within the range. In the palace, a wounded guard respectfully reported that there was a captured rifle beside her. This weapon they had never seen before cost them a heavy price. The Amazons, blessed by the gods, are immortal, beautiful, tall, and good at fighting, all of which are their characteristics. Today, nearly half of them were killed or injured. This sudden accident forced them to make changes and choices. The Amazons held a half-day meeting. The content of the meeting was unknown. However, before the meeting ended, the Queen had already officially issued an order. A grand athletic competition would be held on Paradise Island, and the winner would be given a magical weapon, and the hero Subai went to the outside world to fight against Ares. The Amazons, who had just taken a breather from the battle, slowly came out of their grief and regained their spirits because of this piece of news. One of the reasons is naturally that Subai, the Amazon people who were shocked by the guns and cannons, had doubts about their faith. Longbows and swords were obsolete by the times. This can be regarded as a small collision between the technological side and the mysterious side. In the era when the Greek gods have gone away, there is no doubt that technology has won a crushing victory. Only in Subai, they can still see the glory of the ancient gods. This is a hint in their hearts and a secret transfer of faith. Another reason is that some Amazons have long wanted to see the world outside Paradise Island, and more than 100 years of boredom are unbearable. Therefore, every Amazonian is particularly concerned about this competition. While the Amazons were holding a meeting, Subai was not idle. He entered the library of the Amazons on Paradise Island and obtained the strengthening of the power of the small universe. Subai's brain power naturally followed the strengthening, and he went back to get the top score in the college entrance examination, that is, sprinkle water, things. There were very few books in the library. When he opened an Amazon Chronicle, Subai quickly discovered something interesting. The Amazons were created by the 5 goddesses among the Greek gods and were blessed to never grow old or die. The original Amazon tribe was a nomadic people through and through. They settled at the junction of the Eurasian continent in summer and autumn, near the Telmadan River. The soil there is fertile and very secluded. It is surrounded by high mountains in the south and east. In winter and spring, he traveled to Greece, buying and selling furs, and running a caravan. It wasn't until 100 years ago, after the War of the Gods, that the Amazons settled on Paradise Island. Subai's expression became weird and he settled on Paradise Island. Being in a magic barrier is no different from being imprisoned, right? Moreover, Paradise Island is far from being called rich. There is very little land on the island that can be cultivated. Most Amazons make a living by fishing. They practice martial arts all year round, but it is boring. What makes Subai even more problematic is that the book records that Paradise Island was created by the god King Zeus, and the Amazons just immigrated. Before the arrival of the Amazons, most of the buildings on the island already existed, but they were empty. The Amazons could at best be regarded as the second generation of residents of Paradise Island. Subai already has a rough guess in his mind. Entering the huge space under Paradise Island may be the key to solving this mystery. However, other secrets in it are difficult to obtain from the book. Turn another page and describe stopped abruptly. Subai could only return the book to its original place and pull out another one. Gradually, he learned more about the Greek pantheon of this world. Judging from the description of demigods, I can already be considered a demigod. Subai chuckled and shook his head. The Greek gods in this world are far less powerful than those in the world of Saint Seiya. The powerful men at the level of the 12 main gods of Greece are only existences at the level of the 7th sense of the small universe. Perhaps God King Zeus has gone one step further, but it will never go beyond that. A stronger god, the Amazons have no way of knowing. Jump to the next book. Judging from the creases on the cover, this one is almost the most read. Subai hesitated for a moment, opened it, and couldn't help but slap his forehead. It's clear that this book enters another category. What he is holding now is a book dedicated to introducing men. There are 12 volumes in total. It describes and speculates on men from various psychological and physical angles. This is Acilia's work. The 3rd and 5th books are the essence of this book. They introduce in detail the responsibility of men in the process of reproduction and their greed for meaningless pleasure. Diana's voice sounded behind Subai, and her figure gradually appeared. There was a trace of doubt in her eyes. She looked for Subai for a long time, but she didn't expect to find him in the library. Subai laughed and said, "It seems that you are a loyal fan of this book." Diana shrugged her shoulders so as not to deny it. "I have read all the books in the library. This book is indeed unique. I often read it over and over again to study the differences between men and women." Subai coughed twice and hammered himself hard. He was so afraid of asking any more questions that Wonder Woman's heroic image collapsed in his heart, and he quickly changed the subject. "Why did you come to me? Have all the Germans finished interrogating you? The Queen has just issued a decree confirming that a competition will be held. The winner will be able to leave Paradise Island and fight Ares with you." Diana patted Subai on the shoulder and said loudly, "I can participate too." Subai nodded and thought to himself, "This time, Hippolyte is a lot more honest." Diana's eyes flashed with excitement and she raised her wrist. "So, Subai, you must train me well and help me win this competition. There are many strong opponents participating this time, and even I have no guarantee of victory." "Sure." After Subai heard this, he was surprised for a second. At this moment, he really wanted to yell, "You are not joking." Before Subai could answer, the voice of the Wheel of Time echoed in his mind. "Congratulations, Master, for triggering the mission, Wonder Woman Development Plan." Congratulations to the Master for triggering the mission, Wonder Woman Development Plan. Level 1 of the mission. Help Wonder Woman Diana awaken the divine blood in her body within half a month. Reward for Level 1 of the mission, 5,000 redemption points. Does the Master accept the mission? Accept. Half a month is not a long time, and Subai doesn't even know the method of awakening the divine blood, but Subai is poor. He had no exchange points left, but Subai had set a small goal, so he naturally tried his best to get the exchange points. Why did you ask me to train you? Although Subai had already agreed in his heart, he still asked. He felt a sense of accomplishment for being able to train Wonder Woman. After all, Wonder Woman is one of the famous superheroes. Diana smiled and said with a slight blush on her face, because you are strong. You have long become the strongest person on the island. I don't know how many Amazon warriors want to become your disciple. What Diana said was telling the truth. As soon as the news of the competition came out, many Amazon female warriors set their sights on Subai. If you can get Subai's guidance, your strength will definitely improve a lot. However, other Amazon female warriors have no intersection with Subai at all, and Subai's image is too aloof, a figure from mythology, and ordinary Amazon warriors do not dare to come and talk to her at will. It was because of Diana's rescue of Subai that she became the person who knew Subai best on the island, so she dared to come and ask for Subai's help. How do they know that Subai is a complete, one-hit style player? Each saint has his own exclusive move. No matter where the exclusive move comes from, in most battles, the saint will only use the strongest move. The first training principle of the Saint Seiya is, fine, not more. It is impossible for Subai to teach Fengyi Tian Shang to Diana, and the power system of the small universe is even more impossible. Subai himself is still in the entry stage. I see the task as difficult. Subai secretly thought in his heart that he could only treat a dead horse as a living doctor. Looking at Diana's flawless smile, he sighed. This is what the so-called one is willing to fight, and the other is willing to suffer. Let me put my words first. My training is hell-like training, and it involves hardship. I suggest you come back mentally prepared. Subai's words only aroused Diana's competitive spirit. You agreed. Haha, don't worry, as long as I can become stronger, I can persist in no matter how hard the training is. Subai snorted, her mind kept churning, and she thought of a few training methods. I don't know if they can make her stronger, but they are definitely enough to torture people. But it's quite strange that Diana hasn't awakened the divine blood yet. The two had a long conversation, and Subai learned that Hippolyte had never allowed Diana to touch weapons since she was a child. As an Amazon who was good at fighting, Diana became an anomaly. Until 2 years ago, Antiope secretly taught Diana some fighting skills. But soon, Diana's secret practice was discovered by Hippolyte. Hippolyte and Antiope had a big fight. The two sisters, who were originally close, had huge amounts of differences. Afterwards, although Antiope would still train Diana, he would always be stopped by Hippolyte. Subai secretly thought in her heart. She was already lagging behind at the starting point and became the center of the struggle between two women. No wonder she hasn't awakened the divine blood yet and become a real Wonder Woman. After going back, Subai immediately made a training plan. After finishing it, he read it himself, patted his forehead, and didn't speak for a long time. Early the next morning, Subai and Diana met at the beach. Subai yawned, looked at the sea, and said, "Try running 2 laps around Paradise Island." Diana didn't expect that Subai would make such a simple request, and she didn't dare to question it. When she raised her feet, she realized that it was not that simple. Subai's small universe spreads invisible, and a huge amount of pressure hits. This pressure does not come from physics, but directly attacks Diana's psychology. Diana, who was at the center of the pressure, couldn't even lift her waist, let alone her feet. Specially designed training to imitate gravity, explode, Super Saiyan. Subai yelled in his heart, and immediately heard a scream. Not to mention it broke out. In less than half a minute, Diana fell heavily on the beach because she couldn't bear the pressure, and it was difficult to even get up. Why, I couldn't hold on from the beginning. Subai's mocking voice floated from behind, causing Diana to grit her teeth. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. She roared and felt an unprecedented strength coming out of her body. Her hands were trembling. It took a lot of effort to get up from the beach. A bright light flashed in Subai's eyes. This potential is really incredible. After standing up, Diana put her hands on her knees and gasped loudly. She paused for 2 minutes before reluctantly taking the first step. Running 2 laps around Paradise Island was something Diana often did. It was relaxing and comfortable. Today, it took more than 3 hours to barely complete it. By the time she finished running, Diana looked like she had been fished out of water. It became difficult to even open her mouth to speak. This is, too, torture. A smile appeared at the corner of Subai's mouth and he said, "That's it for today's training. Remember to take care of your hair when you go back. Let's continue tomorrow." Subai did not have a fixed training time, but he definitely squeezed Diana's mind and body to the point of dryness before she would give up. The news that Subai personally trained Diana spread throughout the Paradise Island on the first day. From the perspective of other Amazon warriors, without Subai's special training, Diana's chances of winning the championship would be slim. After all, many Amazon female warriors who have practiced fighting skills for hundreds of years have participated in this competition. With Subai's participation, the results become confusing and difficult to guess. No one can imagine how far Subai can train Diana, and they can't help but have expectations in their hearts. Even Diana herself didn't know. From the first day, Subai trained her in a devilish way. Diana swore that if she knew that Subai's training was so cruel, she might not be so determined to participate. The first 3 days were spent on long-distance running under pressure. After Diana got used to it, Subai immediately changed her training methods. On the beach, huge waves hit. All Diana had to do was to withstand the blow of the huge waves, one after another, seemingly never ending. Several times, Diana shouted angrily at Subai, "Even a stone can't stand it. I'm going to die from exhaustion, pain, and sleepiness. If you want to quit, it's still too late." Subai sat on the sea rock, turned his hand and punched again, and the huge waves rose up again, covering Diana's body. "Bah, when I become more powerful, I will definitely give you a beating." Before facing the huge wave, Diana yelled. After the huge wave hit, Diana coughed twice and opened her mouth to spit out 2 mouthfuls of seawater, and picked off the starfish that washed up on her head. Washing again and again and getting up again and again are not only exploring Diana's physical potential, but also a kind of tempering of will. Diana's wish to fight Subai soon came true. 3 days after being hit by the waves, Subai took out a bell out of nowhere. "The rule is very simple, as long as you can get the bell from my hand, you can go out. If you don't get it before dark, punishment is waiting for you." After nearly a week of devil training, Diana's temperament has changed a lot, and there is a ray of heroism and perseverance on her face. Before, after all, she was known as the daughter of Hippolyte and the princess of Paradise Island, and she didn't eat. Having gone through so much hardship, under Subai's inhuman training, she quickly became stronger. Compared with the training of the previous few days, grabbing the bell seemed to be easier, because Subai promised that he would stand still, but when Diana actually started to take action, she immediately fell into a state of madness. Even if he stood still, Subai was still so dexterous, as if the person standing in front of Diana was a shadow that was impossible to touch. Why do you know which side I attack from?" Diana shot from behind Subai, but was dodged by Subai again. At the same time, she received a reply: "Your attack route and method are too slow, and not fast enough. Take your sword and shield and continue." As a result, after practicing all afternoon, Diana couldn't snatch the bell from Subai's hand, and there was no hope of even touching it. "Subai, I hate you so much." Subai's punishment for not grabbing the bell made Diana itchy even more. Subai actually hung her upside down on a branch and didn't even give her supper. If hanging upside down from a tree is acceptable, not giving him anything to eat is really too much. But after practicing all afternoon, Diana really didn't have the energy to scold Subai anymore. When Subai came to see her again 2 hours later, she couldn't help laughing. Diana, who was hanging upside down from the book, actually fell asleep like a silkworm baby. In her sleep, Diana did not forget to say a few words and complaints in her sleep. Time passed like this day by day, and soon it was the eve of the competitive meeting. On the beach under the stars, Subai and Diana were still seizing the last moment to train. This time, Su-bai attacked and Diana defended. Too weak. Su-bai swung out a punch and easily knocked away the sword in Diana's hand. After a period of training, Diana's mentality has made great progress. Faced with Su-bai's pressing step by step, it will not appear too much. Nervous, he immediately raised his buckler in front of him. As long as Su-bai is not forced back 30 meters, Diana can win her first victory. However, Su-bai's attack was too sharp, and with a casual punch, Diana's buckler was knocked away, too weak. Diana, who had lost her sword and buckler, roared angrily, and a trace of determination flashed in her eyes. This time, she was so blessed that she instinctively put her hands in front of her. This time, she doesn't want to lose again. The moment the punch was thrown, Su-bai's eyes flashed with surprise. He felt a powerful force rising in Diana's body and converging on his hands. This time, the moment the two sides met, there was a loud boom. A circle of golden light, with Diana as the center, rippled in all directions, with great momentum, rolling up a wave of air. Congratulations, Master, the divine blood in Diana's body has begun to awaken. Level 1 of the Wonder Woman development plan is completed. Received 5,000 redemption points. Golden air waves rippled out, and even the instigator, Diana, did not expect that she instinctively blocked her hands in front of her body, generating such a powerful force. This was the first time she successfully defended against Su-bai's attack. Straightening up, Diana looked at her hands in disbelief. It was not until Su-bai's voice came from the other side that she came back to her senses. How do you feel now? Hearing the prompt from the Wheel of Time, Su-bai had a smile in his eyes. After so many days of hard work, it was finally not in vain. The divine blood in Diana's body had begun to awaken. Diana took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and noticed a warm current in her body, originating from her heart. As the blood circulated, the fatigue accumulated during many days of training was being dispelled, and the hidden wounds left behind began to slowly heal. A completely unprecedented experience and state. Good, very good. When Diana opened her eyes, powerful power filled her body, and there was a ray of pale golden light flowing in her eyes. Diana was eager to try, thinking that Su-bai would continue training, but she heard Su-bai say, "That's enough. Go back and have a good sleep. Tomorrow is the competition meeting, and you will definitely shine." Diana nodded doubtfully. She didn't understand why Su-bai was so confident. The appearance of this warm current was indeed strange, but could she win the competition in this way? However, she has gradually become accustomed to Su-bai's arrangements. Although she talks about being stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat, she secretly respects Su-bai's decision and doesn't ask any questions. After returning to her residence, Diana clearly felt energetic and fell asleep quickly, feeling more peaceful than ever before. The warm current in the body is constantly running, and the cells, bones, and blood absorb the energy and undergo mysterious changes. She is ascending from one species to another, taking the first step into Wonder Woman. Finally awakening, Level 1 of the Wonder Woman development plan, successful. On the other side, Su-bai was in a good mood when he saw the 5,000 redemption points entered into his account. Definitely, the benefits he had gained were far more than that. Wonder Woman Diana's favorability towards you is 70. Wonder Woman Diana's attitude towards you is dependence. During these days of training, the relationship between Su-bai and Diana can only be described as growing by leaps and bounds. Su-bai has never been in love and is a novice in relationships. However, some basic care and attention can always be provided in a timely manner. In front of Diana. Diana was originally innocent, and she would pretend not to care at all in some simple physical contacts. In fact, she was feeling nervous like never before, and she could only use yelling and resistance to cover up this strange feeling in her heart. Perhaps, this is the so-called tsunere. Or friends, or something else. Diana couldn't figure out the thoughts in her heart, and Su-bai couldn't figure it out either. The relationship between the two gradually became hazy. In the process of training Diana, she also became better familiar with and mastered her own power. Suppressing his feelings temporarily, Su-bai raised a finger, and a golden red flame ignited, emitting an astonishing temperature. During the training process, Su-bai's ability to control flames was gradually discovered. Now that he has obtained 5,000 redemption points, Subai plans to redeem another of Phoenix Zodiac's signature fighting skills. Phoenix Phantom Demon Fist. Mental attack technique. When facing an opponent with lower mental power, it can directly break the opponent's mental will, thereby reading the opponent's inner thoughts. It can attack the opponent's nervous system and eliminate the fear deep in the opponent's heart. Release tenfold, forming a terrifying hallucination. When faced with a weak-willed enemy, the Phoenix Magic Fist has the effect of killing instantly. The original price is 6,000 redemption points, and the discount is calculated. The current price is 3,000 redemption points. Exchange. The moment the exchange was successful, a ray of dark red light rushed into Subai's mind. Subai's field of consciousness has long turned into the vast universe. In the southeast corner, the Phoenix star chart emits light blue starlight. This ray of dark red light rushes in and is embedded in the eyes of the Phoenix star chart. The star map that was originally a little dull suddenly let out a clear sound, as if it came to life. Now Subai has thousands of tons of power with every punch he throws. When he uses Phoenix wings to fly, he can instantly hit a range attack exceeding 10,000 tons. In terms of mental attack, the Phoenix Magic Fist makes up for it. It can punch at the speed of sound and conduct short-distance flights at the speed of sound. Wearing the holy clothes, it can defend against more than 10,000 tons of pure physical attacks. The ability that has yet to be developed is to control flames. This is all the power that Subai currently controls. The remaining 2,000 exchange points are difficult to upgrade the ability to a higher level. Subai plans to use it to accumulate. With the current state, we can try the underground space hidden in Paradise Island. During these days of training, Subai did not forget to find out how to enter the underground space. It is no exaggeration to say that every plant and tree on Paradise Island has been reflected in Subai's mind, and he finally discovered something strange, whether what is hidden in this underground space is a treasure or a devil. Let me reveal it. Tomorrow's competition meeting will have Amazonians gathering together, and Subai doesn't intend to be idle. Just wait for the sun to rise. After nearly half a day of preparation, the Amazon clan's grand competition, which had never been seen in a century, finally began. Diana was awakened by the sound of bells ringing across the island. She rubbed her eyes before sitting up from the bed suddenly. She slept so peacefully last night that she actually forgot that there was a prayer ceremony before the opening of the competition. They ran out in a hurry, and there was no one in the square. When they entered the arena, nearly 1,000 Amazons knelt down on one knee, put their left hands on their right shoulders, murmured something in their mouths, and swore an oath to the sky. There were only two people still standing in the field. One is Queen Hippolyta, who is reciting the oath, and the other is naturally Subai. He is not an Amazon and does not need to participate in the ancient ceremony. Definitely, there's another Diana now. Diana walked forward and instantly felt all kinds of eyes focused on her. Everyone on the island knows that Subai gave Diana special training. What kind of strength does Diana have now? There is no doubt about Subai's strength, but can he raise Diana to an unattainable height in a short period of time? Many Amazonians are skeptical. They just put Diana in the position of their number one enemy out of respect for Subai. The gaze that fell on Diana contained nothing more than envy and jealousy, and everything was related to Subai. Diana took them in her eyes and felt a little uneasy. I believed in Subai too much. After last night's training, I fell down and fell asleep. Can I really win? Subai, don't lie. Me. Diana looked up and stared at Subai. Subai stood much higher than the queen, standing directly at the highest point of the arena. If it were an ordinary Amazon, I'm afraid they would have been expelled long ago, because it was Subai. No one dared, not even the queen had any objections. Subai raised an eyebrow, hinting that Diana didn't need to worry. Below him, Queen Hippolyte looked at Diana with very complicated eyes. Ever since Subai came, Diana was like a kite with its string cut off, out of her control. Hippolyte definitely knew about Subai's special training of Diana, but Hippolyte would never believe it, nor was he willing to believe that Subai could awaken the divine blood in Diana's body in a short period of time. All this time, the divine blood in Diana's body has shown no sign of awakening. No matter how strong you are originally, Subai, there is nothing you can do against the divine blood, right? Hippolyte didn't know whether to be happy or to look forward to it. The thoughts in his heart were wandering. After reading the oath, he reluctantly announced that the athletic meeting had officially begun. A brief drawing ceremony followed. After knowing her opponent, Diana trotted towards Subai, which made Hippolyte very uncomfortable. My opponent in the first round is Caroline. I met a strong opponent right from the beginning. Although Diana was not too nervous, she was still worried. Subai asked casually, "Is she strong?" Diana nodded. Amazonians who have experienced hundreds of battles have a great reputation among their tribe. As if to confirm that Diana was not lying, a small discussion broke out in the arena, and Diana and Caroline faced off in the first round. This is a real show. Diana encountered a strong enemy as soon as she came up. Caroline has said several times that she must beat Diana to the ground. Haha, I don't think Diana has changed much. In such a short period of time, respected Subai has nothing to do against Diana. Be respectful to the princess. If the queen allows the princess to train, you may not even have the courage to participate in the competition. Hippolyte felt a little happy after knowing Diana's opponent. Caroline has always been a strong candidate for the strongest warrior of the Amazon family. If Diana did not have the blood of awakening, she would never be Caroline's opponent. As long as Diana loses, you can fight to keep Diana. Hippolyte's drifting heart resurrected, and she secretly said, "Caroline, everything depends on you." The meeting started quickly, and very quickly it was Diana's turn. Walking towards the center of the arena, Diana and Caroline stood firmly with a sword and a shield. Caroline is a female man nearly 2 meters tall, with bulging muscles all over her body. She is comparable to a bodybuilding champion. She looks like a powerful warrior at first glance. There was a little excitement in her eyes. She wanted to see how much progress Diana had made. Diana took a deep breath and recalled Subai's teachings. The scene of fighting Subai appeared in front of her eyes, and her heart stopped. Game start. The moment the voice fell, Caroline stood up like a fierce tiger, raised her buckler in front of her, and slammed into Diana. Her speed is extremely fast, reaching the limit that normal humans can achieve. She is powerful and powerful. But for the first time, Diana felt that Caroline was so slow. The method of attack was exactly the same as when she first faced Subai. Even Subai's childish words echoed in Diana's ears. Diana imitated Subai's example, flew up and kicked towards the shield. There was a burst of exclamations outside the stadium, and many Amazons shouted, "Diana doesn't want her legs anymore, she will be smashed to pieces by Caroline." Danger. A second later, Caroline was kicked more than 50 meters by Diana and smashed into the wall of the arena. The entire arena suddenly became silent. Diana's seemingly suicidal kick actually easily kicked Caroline back. The latter flew more than 50 meters and smashed into the wall of the arena. The entire arena suddenly became silent. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, Caroline's wailing broke the strange silence. No one thought that Diana's kick would be so powerful. This is an illusion. By the gods, am I really not dreaming? Diana, how did she become so strong? After a short period of silence, it was boiling. The entire arena was instantly filled with noise, and everyone's attention was focused on Diana. Hippolyte had already jumped up from her chair the moment Caroline was kicked away. She covered her mouth with her right hand to prevent herself from screaming. Her whole body was shaking slightly, and she couldn't believe the reality in front of her. Caroline, who had high hopes from her and was favored by everyone, was instantly killed by Diana with just one kick. Divine blood. It must be the divine blood awakening in Diana's body. Only the divine blood awakening can have such a powerful power. Thinking of this, Hippolyte felt even more terrified of Subai. In such a short period of time, Subai actually found a way and successfully awakened the divine blood in Diana's body. Impossible, this is impossible. Hippolyte yelled unwillingly in her heart. Diana's divine blood awakening should be a good thing for her, but when she thought of Diana leaving the Paradise Island to deal with Ares, she only felt unwilling to accept it. Worried, I can't be happy no matter what. Everything originates from Subai and is caused by Subai. When Hippolyte wanted to look for Subai, Subai was nowhere to be seen. Even Diana herself didn't expect to defeat Caroline with one kick, let alone the audience in the arena. They don't know that there is divine blood hidden in Diana's body. Diana's identity as the daughter of the God King has always been regarded as top secret. Therefore, they gave all the credit to Subai for Diana's amazing performance. Subai, how terrifying and powerful is he? If the facts before us were placed a month ago, I am afraid that no Amazon would believe that Caroline is the top warrior of the Amazon clan. She has practiced fighting skills for hundreds of years, but she was defeated by Diana, who had been training for less than half a month. It's all because of Subai. It's Subai's magic that makes Diana who she is at this moment. The Amazons in the arena thought so, and their respect and fear for Subai once again reached a peak. After thinking about it, he became even more envious and jealous of Diana. Why does Subai only give special training to Diana, just because Diana is a princess, so she is qualified? Isn't this the same as behind-the-scenes operations? In the minds of most Amazons, the idea of unfairness arises. Why can only Diana be favored by Subai? If Subai knew what they were thinking, he would probably laugh for a long time. This is actually due to Diana herself. Subai is not a really good teacher. The only unique thing is one word: ruthless. Even though Diana was the princess of Paradise Island and the future Wonder Woman, Subai forced her heart and squeezed the potential in her body so that she could awaken the divine blood in a short period of time. Unexpectedly, the Amazons gave all the credit to him. This time, Subai was completely deified, to the point where he could kneel down and worship. After all, Subai has created an extremely powerful Diana in less than half a month. Maybe she will be the next one. Now, who is Diana's opponent? Seeing Caroline, who was so aggressive at first, being dug out of the wall, an Amazon sighed helplessly. The current Diana is basically a weakened version of Subai, but she can only look up to her. How can this compare? Diana in the arena shrugged helplessly. She was also very innocent. Diana didn't expect that Subai's special training would have such a powerful effect. Now that I have her, it is not an exaggeration to describe her as a reborn person. I trust Subai even further in my heart, and I want to share the joy of this moment with Subai. But her eyes wandered around the arena and she never found Subai. Where did Subai go? In fact, Subai left the arena the moment Diana fought back. In his opinion, Diana, who successfully awakened the divine blood, can win the championship without a doubt, and the rest of the competition is meaningless. Subai was not too far away, but came to the square of Paradise Island. Paradise Island was created by Zeus, but after searching the entire Paradise Island, the only one that can be related to Zeus is this one. Subai secretly thought to himself and walked to one of the 12 main god statues in the square. It was the god king Zeus who controlled thunder and lightning, spreading brilliance in the world. On the entire Paradise Island, the only thing related to Zeus. On the ground in front of the statue, there are words inscribed in ancient language, the favor of the god king. The entrance can only be here. Subai took a deep breath, moved his hands forward, and pushed the statue of Zeus in front of him. With his current strength, it actually felt very difficult. It took a lot of effort to move the 10-meter-high statue a distance. As Subai expected, a dark cave entrance appeared in front of Subai. Pushing aside the statue of Zeus, a dark cave entrance appeared in front of Subai. The favor of the god king refers to this entrance. Jumping into it, after a short period of darkness, Subai sensed the changes in gravity and landed on a piece of black soil, with unknown dead grass scattered in front of it. Looking around, most of the site was blocked by gray-black mist. In the strange silence, there wasn't even a breeze. Lifeless. Frowning slightly, Subai had already put on the holy cloth of the phoenix seat before jumping into the cave entrance. The small universe spread out and he immediately noticed the strange scene. This space is actually upside down. The underground space Subai sensed on Paradise Island was roughly in the shape of an inverted golden letter. When entering it, everything turned upside down, as if walking on the ceiling. This gray-black mist is not ordinary smoke. Radiation, plague, viruses, poisons, curses, etc., are difficult to affect the saints, unless the ability level is much higher than that of the saints. The gray-black mist floating in front of him gave Subai a thought. Feeling drowsy. The small universe moved at a faster speed to completely dispel this feeling. However, with Subai's eyesight and sixth sense, he was still unable to discern the direction in this dim space. The unknown thing, perhaps a barrier, or a more mysterious force, suppressed the thoughts of those who entered it. Senses. If you can't find the direction, it's difficult to take the first step. When Su-bai looked at the entrance where he came from, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The hole through which it came in has turned into a small black dot at the top of the space. It is difficult to find, but fortunately it has not disappeared. At this moment, in the deathly silence, the sound of running water suddenly appeared. The sound of running water became louder and louder, turning into the roar of a rapid river. Judging from the sound, it was not far in front of Su-bai. The sound of the water was too strange. Su-bai looked at the withered grass on the ground, and a ball of flame appeared in his hand. Even the light of the flame was suppressed and became flickering, but the astonishing temperature did not change. Throwing it on the withered grass on the ground, it was originally expected to burn, but as soon as the withered grass came into contact with the energy, it turned into black particles, floating in the air. Su-bai took a step, and all the withered grass within a radius of 10 meters turned into black particles. For black particles, floating in the air. These black particles did not dissipate. As soon as they appeared, a breeze floated from an unknown direction, picking up the black particles in the air and gathering them in the direction of the sound of running water. What made Su-bai feel even more depressed was that the flame he had condensed was extinguished silently by the slight breeze. On Paradise Island, Su-bai conducted experiments. Even if it is stirred by violent sea winds or even thrown into the sea water, the flame condensed by the phoenix seed will not be extinguished easily. Now Su-bai has two choices, one is to go back the same way, and the other is to go in the direction where the sound of water comes from. Su-bai hesitated slightly and chose the latter. That is, after Su-bai made up her mind, the voice of the Wheel of Time rang in her mind. Congratulations, Master, for triggering a world-class mission, the secret space under Paradise Island. Current exploration level, 3%. When the exploration degree reaches 30%, you can complete the mission and get 10,000 redemption points. Does the Master accept the mission? Accept. Su-bai continued to walk forward, and saw that the dead trees and grass along the way had all turned into black particles, floating in the air, and then swept away by the breeze. There was wind in this space, but it made Su-bai feel a sense of death even more. The sound of water kept coming from a distance, and it felt very close. Su-bai ran at the speed of sound, and even after running for nearly half an hour, he didn't arrive. He made another judgment in his heart. The vastness of this space is far beyond imagination. I don't know when it started, but the sound of the water slowly became smaller again, but without the obstruction of the gray-black mist, the line of sight became wider, and a river could be seen as far as the eye could see. This river is so wide that it can no longer be calculated with both eyes. It is even more appropriate to describe it as sea. What is even more frightening is that the chaotic black water in front of you absorbs all the black particles in the wind, but there is no sign of flowing. It seems to be solidified, but there is a sound of flowing. The water is dead, why is there still sound? While Su-bai was thinking, he had already reached the river. The gravity around him suddenly reached an exaggerated level. Su-bai took a step forward and could only walk, not even basic jumping. How to cross the river? A dark brown boat slowly appeared on the river. No one was rowing on the boat, but it still accurately approached Su-bai's direction. A flash of lightning flashed across Su-bai's mind, and an illusion suddenly occurred to her. In Greek mythology, when the dead man enters the underworld, he must first cross the river Styx by boat. Could it be that the big black river in front of me is the legendary river Styx? If it is the river Styx, why is it hidden under Paradise Island? Is the river in front of me the river Styx? Su-bai had no way of knowing, but if he wanted to cross the river, he could only step on the boat in front of him. Get on board or leave. The weird scenes that happened along the way are enough to make ordinary people confused, and even make them want to quit from the moment they step in. Not to mention the stagnant water in front of us. Those who can reach this point can be called brave. Su-bai looked at the stagnant water in front of him, a ray of caution flashed in his eyes. He punched hard, and he could feel that his power was still full, so he stopped worrying and stepped onto the boat in front of him. In Greek mythology, if you want to cross the river Styx, you need the permission of the ferryman, but now there is no ferryman, only the boat. The boat loaded Su-bai and sailed to the other shore on its own, which made Su-bai's doubts even heavier, and her nerves were already tense to the maximum. But nothing happened. On the stagnant water, even the passage of time was meaningless. There was only such a small boat, quietly and lightly sailing to the opposite side. I don't know how long it took, but I heard a thump sound, and the ship docked. Su-bai got off the boat and walked about 100 meters forward. The gravity gradually returned to normal. The gray-black fog around him became thicker. There was no need to be as aimless as before. A little red light passed through the fog and fell on it. In Su-bai's eyes, that little bit of red light was particularly dazzling in the dim environment. Running towards the red light at the speed of sound, the gray-black fog was almost to the point where you couldn't see your fingers, and no sound was made. Beads of sweat appeared on Su-bai's forehead. This kind of deathly silence is like locking a person in a dark space that can extend infinitely. You can never get out, and you are left with only eternal loneliness. This is a great test of will. Su-bai didn't know why the further he went, the greater his psychological pressure was. It was not just from his own fright, but something Su-bai didn't know was spreading the fear in this deathly silence. Su-bai's small universe burned to its maximum, as if being chased by something invisible, running towards the red light at a faster speed. His eyes were already bloodshot, and at the moment when his will was about to collapse, he finally felt his body lighten up. The surrounding gray and black fog disappeared. In front of Su-bai's eyes, there was a gate 100 meters high. The door was made of unknown black rock, emitting a faint black light. The door was engraved with complex glyph patterns. It could barely be seen that it was a man holding a bident, sitting on a chariot pulled by 4 groups of black horses. A huge amount of cracks, extending from the upper left corner of the door to the lower right corner. The top of the door looks like a blood-red gem, and the red light that breaks through the fog is emitted from the gem. But Su-bai's attention was more focused on a giant statue in front of the door and a mass of bones as high as a hill. This statue, I've seen it. It's Hercules. Hercules, the greatest hero in Greek mythology, was the son of the god King Zeus. Because he was hated by the god queen, he was forced to complete 12 impossible tasks before he could become Hercules. In the square of the Amazons on Paradise Island, there is no statue of Hercules, but in the center of the arena, with the most high-spirited posture, completely different from the statue of Hercules in front of you. The one in front of Su-bai was nearly 30 meters high, facing the huge door. He knelt on the ground, and his hands were cut off starting from the wrist. The facial features of the statue were exactly the same as those in the arena, but 2 of the eyes were dried and scarlet. Kneeling down, breaking his wrist, crying blood, facing the door. Is this really Hercules from Greek mythology? Su-bai took a deep breath and looked at the hill-like corpse again. This corpse belonged to a large beast. The unique thing was that it had 3 skulls. Su-bai finally made a judgment in his heart. It's the 3-headed hell dog guarding the gate of the underworld. His thoughts kept spinning, and memories surged. According to legend, if Hercules wants to become a god, he must complete 12 tasks. The last task is to defeat the 3-headed dog of hell guarding the gate of Hades. According to the ancient records of the Amazons, the same is true for the Hercules of this world. Su-bai's doubt is that since Hercules has become Hercules, why is there still a strange statue standing here, and why is it accompanied by the bones of the 3-headed dog of hell? Just when Su-bai was thinking, he suddenly frowned, jumped back a short distance, and stared at the weird statue of Hercules. There was actually scarlet blood flowing out of the statue's eyes. It is crying blood. The statue is alive. The small universe burned to its maximum, and Su-bai had already felt the extremely weak heartbeat of another creature, which came from the statue of Hercules. But time flies by, and the statue of Hercules is just weeping blood without any other movement. Immediately afterwards, the voice of the Wheel of Time sounded. Congratulations, Master, for triggering the world-class mission. Choice. Kill Hercules, or save Hercules. The Master's decision will change the direction of the entire world line. Please be careful. Su-bai's eyes narrowed. I didn't expect that the statue in front of me is really the Hercules of this world. Su-bai did not expect that the statue in front of him was really the Hercules of this world. Moreover, the reminder of the Wheel of Time this time is very simple. The consequences of different choices need to be speculated, born, and even affected by the world line by Su-bai himself. Why is Hercules here? This is what Su-bai wants to know most now, but no matter how hard he imagines, it is difficult to find an explanation in a short time. Based on Hercules' current state alone, it would be difficult for Subai to make a responsible decision. After all, mythological history is written by believers. Subai glanced at the statue warily, and then began to observe the door carefully. He has confirmed that the door in front of him is the door to Hades in this world, leading to the country of dead man. Who could leave such a terrifying crack on the gate of Hades? Hercules. Subai shook his head. In this short period of time, the statue of Hercules suddenly stopped crying. When Subai turned around, he found that dots of blue light suddenly appeared on the forehead of the statue of Hercules. These dots of blue light quickly gathered and condensed into a cube-shaped object in midair. In the center of the cube, a light blue flame can be seen, burning extremely slowly. Because of the appearance of the cube, most of the original darkness was dispelled, like starry embellishments, with blue light dots overflowing from time to time. The cube slowly floated forward and stood in front of Subai. Subai looked at the statue in surprise. Isn't this the legendary godhead? The crystallization of God integrating various skills, knowledge, spells, the original laws of the world, etc. that he possesses is called Godhead. Godhead is the most important thing about a god. The Hercules in front of him placed his divine power in front of Subai so easily. Along with the Godhead, there is also a will, and a simple message can be felt: help me. The mythical Hercules has somehow turned into a strange sculpture. Now, in order to be saved, he has put down all his dignity, even his godhood, and is willing to give it up. He is begging Subai. There are too few humans who can reach the gate of Hades. Hercules puts all his hope of escape on Subai. Subai took a look at Hercules' godhead and became even more vigilant. While walking through the gray-black fog, Subai felt a strong mental pressure, which was forced directly into his soul, making Subai almost lost. And above the godhead of Hercules, he felt a ray of familiarity, which was exactly the same as the huge pressure forced into his soul. It's resentment. Maybe Hercules himself didn't expect that his godhead is already stained with resentment. Only when it goes deep into his nature can it be contaminated, right? Another picture has emerged in Subai's mind. The desolate gate of Hades, Hercules with his hands cut off and turned into a statue, exuding endless resentment all the time. Perhaps the gray-black fog has a blocking effect. Perhaps because his senses had become limited, he did not notice Subai's arrival at the first time. When Subai broke through the fog, he suppressed all his emotions, pretended to be an ordinary statue, and secretly observed Subai. He discovered that Subai was a human being. From Subai's eyes, he felt that Subai knew his identity. He immediately shed tears of blood and wanted to return to his former heroic image, completely focusing on his identity as the weakest and the victim. Accept it, the godhead of Hercules. Subai even guessed Hercules' inner monologue. But no matter what, Subai would not accept the divine power of Hercules in front of him. Subai's own small cosmic power system has a potential that is much higher than that of Hercules, so there is no need to sacrifice the good to the weak. What's more, the godhead in front of him came too easily. Subai secretly suspected, could it be that this Hercules wants to borrow his own body to be reborn? Thinking of this, Subai had a plan in his mind. He glanced at Hercules extremely warily, then suddenly backed away, walking towards the river Styx without even turning his head. This sudden change actually caused the statue of Hercules to shake twice. Hercules, who was trapped in the statue, wanted to stop him, but couldn't break through the shackles of the statue. He could only watch Subai leave. At this moment, Hercules finally revealed his true nature. He was too impatient. Dark red ripples rippled, and endless resentment spread, with a hint of frightening wailing, spreading throughout the wilderness. The heroes in myths and legends have turned into the embodiment of resentment in front of the gate of Hades amid endless blows and torture. This is a spiritual attack. An extremely powerful pressure wants to sneak into Subai's heart, and the godhead floating in the air rushes towards Subai at an extremely fast speed. Subai's small universe had already burned to its maximum, and his eyes were bloodshot. In the star map in his mind, Phoenix's eyes suddenly flashed two red lights, and he barely resisted the invasion from his soul. Turning around very quickly, before the godhead was about to come into contact with his body, Subai's whole body was wrapped in crimson, and he launched the phoenix wings Tianxiang that he had accumulated for a long time. He has made a decision. he wants to kill God. As a statue, Hercules has no way to hide. Su Bai turned around and swung out a phoenix wing. The phoenix phantom solidified and crushed towards the statue of Hercules. Anyone who can come to the gate of Hades must be no ordinary person. Hercules has never looked down upon Su Bai. But Hercules never expected that Su Bai's strength could actually match that of a demigod. In the heyday of Hercules, he was proud of his status as a demigod. Now he is trapped. Even the simplest movement is impossible. Facing the demigod-level physical attack from Su Bai, there is no way. Another rapid wailing came out. The eyes of the Hercules statue were filled with blood, and the invisible spiritual shockwave was sent out, directly hitting Su Bai's heart. The godhead in midair pointed towards Su Bai's forehead at an extremely fast speed. Almost at the same time, Feng Yi Tianxiang hit the head of the statue, crushing Hercules' head into pieces. As Hercules' head flew high, a large amount of golden blood gushed out from the broken part like a fountain. Out. The golden blood quickly gathered into a golden blood mass in midair and wrapped around Su Bai. And the godhead of Hercules has lightly touched Su Bai's forehead. Ha 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 ha, I succeeded. With just a slight touch, a laughter came into Su Bai's mind. The consciousness of Hercules is hidden in the godhead. Just as Su Bai thought, it wants to plunder Su Bai's body and use his body for rebirth. Golden blood covered Su Bai's whole body, and the sad and desolate laughter kept ringing. Hercules had already seen the hope of rebirth. In Su Bai's mind, a phantom slowly emerged. This phantom was covered in strong muscles. It was nearly 30 meters tall and looked like a giant. It was the original Hercules. But when his consciousness entered Su Bai's mind, the laughter stopped suddenly, and the smile condensed on his face, turning into a strange expression. Everything ends suddenly. He is nearly 30 meters tall, but in this vast universe, he is so small. These stars are actually the shadow of the entire galaxy in your mind. No, this is the entire universe. Hercules was so nervous that he could not speak coherently. He was not good at mental attacks, but because he had a godhead after becoming a god and knew some mysteries, and because his body was restricted and could not move, he repeatedly used mental suppression to attack Su Bai's mind, have achieved good results. Therefore, Hercules thought that Su Bai's mind and will were weaker, and wanted to force his way into Su Bai's mind, kill Su Bai, and replace him. Unexpectedly, Su Bai's mind had already turned into a vast universe. Now Su Bai only exchanged the Phoenix magic fist on the attack side, but when Hercules entered his home court, he became the lord of the universe in the small universe. There was a soft cry, and a giant fire phoenix appeared from the south. This fire phoenix spread its wings and was 3 million kilometers away. Its eyes flashed with red light, exuding extremely powerful power. It actually forced Hercules to the kneeling level. This fire phoenix is the guardian constellation Su Bai currently owns, the Phoenix constellation. Immediately afterwards, another phantom, countless times larger than the Phoenix constellation, slowly emerged. The stars are not as big as the phantom's finger. His body spans several galaxies. His eyes are brighter than fixed star. Even his breath can destroy several planets. This shadow is none other than Su Bai. Su Bai transformed into the Unicron. Welcome to my world. Su Bai chuckled lightly, and then half the galaxy's planets were like bullets, crushing towards Hercules. Who are you? How can a monster like you exist? In the eyes of Hercules, there was only madness and fear. The spiritual world of any god he had ever seen was not as bright and dazzling as the one in front of him. It was vast and vast, not even as good as the god King Zeus. 30 meters tall, he looked like a hobbit entering the world of titans. The only thing Hercules can do before his demise is to contact the divine blood from the outside world. The golden blood spurted out from the statue, and had already wrapped Su Bai's body when the godhead came into contact with Su Bai's forehead. As long as it captured Su Bai's mind, it would immediately undergo a blood exchange and be reborn. Now, Hercules just wants to command the divine blood to strangle Su Bai's body. But when he couldn't even breathe, he was completely desperate. The divine blood that carried his hope for rebirth actually disappeared. How can it be? He never expected that there would be more holy clothes in this world. As soon as the divine blood comes into contact with the Phoenix Saint cloth, it becomes the best nourishment and is completely absorbed by the holy cloth. You, who are you? Before being annihilated by the endless stars, Hercules yelled unwillingly, and then, his remaining consciousness was turned into nothingness in the big explosion of the stars colliding. As if in the blink of an eye, the Hercules in Greek mythology had died in the hands of Subai. The shadow of the Unicron in his consciousness gradually dissipated, and Subai returned to the real world again. A beep sounded, and the godhead of Hercules fell to the ground. Beep sounded softly, and the godhead fell to the ground. Subai regained his composure and gasped for air. Although the fight just now was very short, the danger involved was indescribable. If Subai was not cultivating a small universe and was not wearing a holy robe, he might have been succeeded by Hercules. However, the winner stands and the loser lies down. Subai has the last laugh. The statue of Hercules in the distance turned into gray powder at an extremely fast speed and floated towards the river Styx. Since then, there has been no more Hercules in this world. Subai glanced at the godhead on the ground again, picked it up and held it in his hand. A piece of information emerged in his mind: Hercules godhead, sub-god level. It contains a power, rule in this world, as well as Hercules, fighting skills, part of the soul power. Integrate the divine personality of Hercules and have a chance to become a new generation of Hercules. It can be decomposed and recycled, and can be used as nourishment for the awakening God's small universe. Subai's eyes narrowed. He would never become a Hercules. What surprised him was the God's small universe. Everything in this world is made up of atoms, including flowers, trees, grass, rocks, stars, the Milky Way, everything. The small universe actually refers to atoms. Just like one flower and one world, one sand and one kingdom, one atom, it can also contain a universe. Therefore, it is not surprising to people that everything has a microcosm. For humans, cultivating the small universe is divided into two parts. The first is to cultivate the atoms in the body, detonate the atoms in the body, and exert super strength that shatters the stars and tears the earth. If you want to control the atoms in your body, you have to simulate and construct the entire universe in your mind, that is, in the spiritual world. This is the second part of cultivating the small universe. However, due to the original limitations of human beings, they can often only simulate a sea of stars and a sea of stars, constellation. That's why there are saints corresponding to the constellations. The universe constructed in the spiritual world can be divided into the sixth sense, the seventh sense, and even the eighth sense according to the degree of completeness. The seventh sense is countless times stronger than the sixth sense. It is precisely because of awakening the seventh sense that you can feel everything and mobilize more atoms. But whether it's the sixth sense, the seventh sense, or anything else, it's just the human microcosm. From the beginning of cultivation, the small universe has been divided into the small universe of humans and the small universe of God. The small universe of God builds a truly complete universe. Human beings' seventh and eighth senses are just desperate pursuits and are far inferior to God's. The power of the small universe. And the Godhead in front of Subai is actually the material of the awakening God's small universe. In the world of Saint Seiya, it is impossible for a mortal to awaken the small universe of God, because in the world of Saint Seiya, the soul of God is eternal and cannot perish. But the gods in this world are different, far less powerful than the gods in Saint Seiya. Only Subai is powerful enough to kill them one by one, break through the eighth sense that mortals cannot break through, and build a small universe of gods. Subai did not expect that Hercules' godhead could bring such a surprise, and immediately asked for information about the Wheel of Time. It turns out that the Wheel of Time can divide the godhead into two parts, dividing the world of power. The origin is drawn out. The origin of the world is the nourishment of the awakening God's small universe. What surprised Subai even more was that the godhead that had been extracted from the origin of the world could still be recycled by the system, earning a full 3,000 redemption points. Subai did not have hesitation and chose to decompose the godhead. The wisp of the world's origin turned into a pale golden thread and was suddenly integrated into Subai's small universe. It is said to be power, but actually it is more appropriate to call it strength. By integrating this ray of the origin of the world, the strength can be increased thousands of times. However, Subai did not choose to integrate immediately. He was still in front of the gate of Hades, and integrate would take a lot of time. Obviously, this was not a safe place. After the statue of Hercules turned into powder, a layer of gray-black mist suddenly appeared around it, which was exactly the same as the one on the banks of the Styx. The difference was that Su-Bai's Phoenix Saint cloth automatically emitted a light red light, protecting lived all over Su-Bai. After absorbing the divine blood of Hercules, the Phoenix Saint cloth became even brighter. It gained great benefits and was in the process of metamorphosis evolution. The red light emitted by it, even the gray-black the fog cannot hide it either. Su-Bai looked at the current exploration progress, which was 23%, but did not reach the required 30%. But he is not ready to explore anymore. The gray-black fog around him is getting thicker and thicker. He doesn't know how weird things will happen. He must return to the surface of Paradise Island as soon as possible. Just as the thought of leaving arose, the ground beneath my feet began to tremble slightly, and something huge came rushing from the mist. The footsteps were accompanied by violent breathing, and the breathing was divided into 3. When it jumped out of the mist, it immediately revealed its ferocious figure. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.